People, not really. I mean, a lot of the people that I saw.
Oh, no audio on the stream. All right. Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Before you go into it.
Yeah, we missed my awesome intro, but we're just gonna jump right into the questions again. So I'm joined here by Odd Mitch from Predictive Gaming Odin, and also ZPM from
Hello.
Limitless. So thanks again, y'all. Sorry about that technical snafu at the beginning. So what we were discussing at the beginning is that we saw our all CCS teams being released today and notated the top 3 players at each position in our league. And I started off by asking ZPM right off the bat, were there any surprises for you in the choices?
I'm surprised that I'm on Limitless now.
Oh, I'm so sorry. From Team Heart and Soul.
No. No, there weren't a ton of surprises for me because, a lot of the people I saw in there were from Lost Chapter and Collective, which are by far the top 2 seeds going into playoffs. Not too surprising. Congrats to you, Odd Mitch, though, for making it first for support. So that's huge for being out the Lost Chapter and Collective contenders there.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, and that leads me right into my next question, which is for Odd Mitch. You earned the honor of being the first team all CCS support. Is there anyone that you expected to be alongside you on that first team that you feel like got snubbed or didn't make the cut?
I thought the first team was pretty accurate, like overall. You can make the argument that maybe Zone, our top laner, may deserve it over Mr. Kevin. But it's not like outrageous that they are 1-2.
Yeah.
If anything is good, Zone didn't get number 1. That dude does not need his ego inflated by any more than it already is. I think Gregorio, Depripine, and Philly B pretty clearly showed that they were the best at their respective positions throughout the split. And that would also be my personal top 3 for like MVP. As for support, the voting on it was definitely the closest out of all the positions. And I do think the community got the top 3 right, at least. You could order us in any particular order, and I think you would be correct. I thought the 2 other guys were super good. As far as like who's not there that I'm surprised, I would say it's probably my jungler Charizard, like not even making the top 3 team. For us, I would say Char is probably like our best player and probably the MVP of our team. And for us to have 3 members make the All Pro team and him not be there was kind of surprising for me.
Yeah, interesting. So, you touched already on the top laners and how you thought maybe Huffzone could have been up there as the first one. Well, tonight we're going to be able to watch the first team CCS top laner Kevin Chen from Lost Chapter. He's going to be taking on the third team top laner, which is Martial Arts for Y, in a matchup that I'm super excited to cast tonight. So, again, touching on Huffzone, who's teammates with you, Odd Mitch, we know that from his streams as well as his desk appearance earlier that he's an incredibly confident player. What is it like, Odd Mitch, playing alongside someone who's so absolutely competitive like Huffzone is?
It's good for our team overall. I would say our 4 other members are kind of melancholy, kind of go with the flow, take it easy, and he's kind of like the fire under our ass sometimes. He's a joy to play with, one of my favorite top laners I ever had a chance to play with, and I just really enjoy him on and off the rift. Just a good dude.
So ZPM.
I'd like to make a note on that. Sorry. The top laners, I do actually think Marshall should probably be a bit far up there. After our playoff game against Limitless, I was really impressed by him. And also to the CCS whatever thing. I think that I wish that we had Adu on our roster for longer so that we could have seen more of him, because I think that people may have not thought of him as an option for a jungler, because I was really impressed with him after we got him on board.
Absolutely. So, talking a little bit more about junglers, we know that the mid laner, you're a mid laner. We know often that is a a position that's really dependent on jungle attention. So, somewhat predictably, as Oddmitch already alluded to, Gregorio was the first team CCS jungler, and it was followed up by NACL, who's the jungler from Collective. And at that point, there was kind of a large gap in the point totals, with Myth Jones ending up being the third team selection. ZPM, do you feel like Myth Jones deserved to be there, or do you feel like there was another jungler that stood out for you that should have been third?
They do.
Okay, yeah, I feel it.
I don't know. I think Myth Jones played respectively in our playoff game, at least. It's hard for me to really say other than that, because the only other one that stands out to me a lot is Gregorio, who's on there. And I don't remember our match against Collective terribly well because it was several weeks ago. But
yeah. And so I guess to continue with you a little bit, ZPM, just because you are a mid laner, the CCS all CCS mid laners ranked from highest to lowest were Philly B of Collective, Fonzo from Limitless Future, and then Whole Grain Man from Predictive Gaming Odin. Was there one of these players that stands out to you as being the most difficult to lane against in your matchups, if you can recall? And if you can, why were they the hardest?
yeah, it's hard for me to say again which one would be the hardest. I definitely think that Fonzo deserves a spot up there. Again, respect to Limitless after that playoff game because that was just a banger of a series. But Philly B, I think, was definitely the most difficult to play against. But again, that was a few weeks ago. I don't remember the match super well, but I think I remember feeling that there was a lot of pressure in the lane playing against him. So I think he deserves to be up there.
And Oddmitch, you already talked a little bit about how you felt like you had a lot of respect for the other people who wore all CCS support players. So I won't ask you more about that, but I do want to widen the discussion a little bit more to the bot lane as a whole. So Lost Chapter, they were the only team that had both bot lane members in the on and all CCS team, with Deprapine being the third team or first team AD. Which ADC stood out to you the most as a support player? Was it Deprapine? Is there anybody else who stands out as well?
Oh, it was definitely Deprapine. I think he's the best AD in the league by a decent gap.
Okay, and I guess, how scary is it for you when you're going into a matchup against a team that has two bot laners that are, super high level in terms of at least this league? How do you kind of prepare for that?
I mean, I'm pretty confident in mine, and I mean, my ADC is literally named Weak Side ADC, so we're pretty used to being put on an island versus really skilled opponents. So I think for our team overall, it's less of an issue because we tend to play through our solo laners. So overall, like we're not scared of anyone, and we think we can mitigate. Like if their bot lane is who they're playing through, and if that's their best player, I think we mitigate a lot of that and alleviate a lot of pressure from our team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that. And so now I want to go to the tonight's matchup, which is between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future, and that's a series in which Lost Chapter is heavily favored. They did take down Limitless Future earlier in the CCS season. So I want to go back to you, Oddmitch, and on Monday, you're going to fight for your own ticket to the finals of the CCS against Collective Effort. Assuming that you're able to win that matchup, is there a team that you really don't want to face going into the finals, and why would that be?
Well, I mean, one team we 2-0'd in the regular season, and one of the other teams haven't lost a playoff series or a series all year. As a matter of fact, so I would say Lost Chapter is probably the scarier opponent. With that said, we did play them week one when we were like, sorry, pup. We played them week one when we had about one scrim under our belt as a team. So there's not really much we can take away from our personal matchup. And then they forfeited against Philly B's team, which was unfortunate because I really wanted to see that matchup as well. So I'm not sure if they've necessarily faced the top echelon of teams here in the CCS. So I kind of want to see how the games play out tonight, see how they do. But for right now, yeah, you can't say you want to face a team that hasn't been beaten yet. That would just be foolish.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And, for me, yesterday, I had the pleasure of being on the podcast, and we also got to do an interview with Gregorio. And he talked about, too, similar to what you said, Odd Mitch, that his team has really leveled up throughout the season. So, I'm sure that's true that you all have kind of meshed together more. But it sounds like Lost Chapter, at least they're feeling even stronger kind of as they enter these playoffs. Now, ZPM, I'm going to come to you. You faced Limitless Future last week, so I'm sure they're kind of fresh in your mind. Do you think that Limitless Future has a chance against Lost Chapter?
I do. I think they'll. Well, yes and no. So I think that Limitless can and probably will pull at least a game off of Lost Chapter. That being said, I think the series is not in their favor. Obviously, I think it's possible for them to win because I think Limitless has it in them, but I think that it'll be a constant uphill battle for them. I mean, going into playoffs, Lost Chapter's only lost series, I'm pretty sure, were FFs. But Limitless did take a game off of them, so they got that going. But when we played Lost Chapter a few weeks ago, it felt like if we had maybe done a few things a little differently, that we could have had a chance. When we played Limitless, it felt like we were doing everything we could, with yet another roster swap, of course. And Limitless still came out on top. So I think it'll be tough for Limitless, but I don't think it's impossible for them.
Yeah, and so you just to press on that a little bit more, you talked about how you felt like you were doing just about everything you could against Limitless. I mean, you did take one game against them, and then that fourth game was obviously like on a knife's edge. It was super close. Yeah. Were there any distinctive kind of weaknesses from the Limitless Future lineup that you were able to distinguish throughout that series?
It's hard to say. We haven't VOD reviewed that yet at all. But I think I don't remember feeling a ton of. Well, I don't want to give anything away for Lost Chapter, but I don't remember feeling a ton of jungle pressure from them, and I don't think I remember feeling a ton of pressure from their mid laner either. The first game I did a bit actually. The rest of them, I felt like maybe they could have been around the map a bit more.
Yeah, and you talked earlier about how Fonzo, you felt like he did deserve the mid laner for Limitless Future. You felt like he did deserve to be up there, but I do have to say, for you, ZPM, you absolutely had some fantastic games. I know, like for me, I don't mind giving some information over to Lost Chapter, I guess personally, but I was really. I mean, I was impressed with you with your Oriana game and the way that you were able to, get those multi-person shockwaves over and over. But honestly, I was also a little bit disappointed in the lack of discipline from Limitless Future in that game. They just kind of kept grouping up like over and over and over again. And then also from Nifik from Limitless Future in that last game against Kane, obviously Kane against Jinx, like that's kind of a nightmare for Jinx, but they didn't really seem to have any way to kind of deal with that. So I definitely felt personally that there were some cracks in the armor there for Limitless Future that probably will be able to be exploited by Lost Chapter. But obviously, yeah. Go ahead if you had something.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of the reason that they won were capitalizing on some mistakes that we made that we should not have made. And I wonder what could have happened if we hadn't made those mistakes. So I think that's where it'll be hard for Limitless to come out on top because it's a lot less likely that Lost Chapter will make the mistakes that our team made.
Yeah. And so, Odd Mitch, I mean, obviously we got kind of a prediction from ZPM. I'm also expecting the same thing from you based on what you said earlier, but do you have a game kind of prediction for what the series is going to end up like for tonight?
I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. We actually play in another league with Limitless Future, and for whatever reason, I think they play a lot better in that league. And I would say the competition in that league's decent. Overall, I think they can compete. But at the same time, I think if Heart and Soul win that game 4 that went like 50 minutes or whatever, I think they take the series against them. So I'm going to say probably Lost Chapter. I want to say 3-2. I'm going to go 3-1.
And ZPM, did you have a game count that you thought maybe they'd take one game, did you say?
I think it'll go 3-2 either way, but I think it'll probably go Lost Chapter.
Okay. And personally, I have a 3-1 for Lost Chapter. I think it is going to be the test of how clean Lost Chapter kind of really is, but ultimately, so far, they do seem to be the powerhouse team of the CCS, so I'm kind of expecting them to come out on, or I'm definitely expecting them to come out on top like many people, so I'm excited to see that one tonight. Don't forget that right after this analyst desk, we're going to be going live with that game between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future. But thankfully, we don't have to do a dual stream tonight because we actually have our other semifinal on Monday evening. It's going to be at 8:45 p.m. Eastern for all you CCS people that are in Eastern time. I think Central time is superior, but I guess we go on Eastern time here in CCS. So obviously, Predictive Gaming Odin and Collective Effort is going to be that matchup. Odd Mitch, you are a member of Predictive Gaming Odin, and you were able to hand Collective Effort their only loss of the season in a close 2-1 victory during CCS Week 7. So, Odd Mitch, do you think that in that Week 7 matchup, Collective Effort was bringing everything that they had? Do you expect them to come out stronger in this playoff matchup?
I mean, I think they definitely played that series to beat us. I mean, no one wants to lose. I don't think they're trolling. They didn't really have any weird picks I was surprised by. They kind of draft by a sort of formula. Not going to go too much into that. But yeah, I think they played to win, and every game was close. Like, it was 3 close games. We easily could have lost. They easily could have won. I hope they change up what they did versus us, because it'd be kind of crazy to lose 2-1 and then just go back to the same exact strategy that didn't work last time. But I mean, I think they're a good team, and this should be a pretty good series.
Yeah, and I don't want to make you give. Obviously, I won't make you give away anything in terms of what you're planning for, but I'm just wondering, kind of, when you're going into a playoff series like this at this level of competition, do you have a way that you kind of prepare for the other team, or what kind of, just if you can give me some generic elements of what goes into that kind of preparation, if there is preparation against the specific team?
I mean, there's definitely prep that goes into it. So I think Philly B kind of warps the team in a way, because I think he is like probably the best player, definitely on their team, possibly in the league. So a lot of our prep just comes down to figuring out, because they play around him, they play to him, which you should when you have that good of a mid laner. So most of our prep is just trying to figure out what they're planning, how we can stop it, how we can go around it. But yeah, definitely a lot of thought and effort put into the series and the matchups.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I think that I know Philly B is considered to be the best mid laner in the CCS, but I do think really highly of Whole Grain Man. By the way, do you call him Barley? Is that what Huffzone is always calling him?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So Whole Grain Man, his last name is Barley.
Oh,
So, and it's with an I. So it's Barley. But yeah,
okay.
I mean, I have utmost faith in Barley, aka Whole Grain Man. He's the only mid laner I think has gone toe to toe with Philly B all year, and honestly, I don't think he gets enough respect coming from the other side of the coin from the other team. I think they kind of just thought it was like a one-off thing, but when he's playing at his peak, he is just as good as anyone. The one thing that I would say he probably needs work on is consistency, but overall, like, I'm super confident. He's like one of the only players on the team that like say, "What do you want here?" Like in draft, and he's just kind of like a wild card at times for us, which is good. Every team needs a wild card to keep things spicy.
Yeah, certainly, and we've seen him even like blind picking things like the Fizz and doing kind of
Yeah,
crazy stuff
he's
like that.
wild.
That's definitely not a blind pick that I would think of. I don't know about you, ZPM, as a mid laner, but go back to you, ZPM. Collective Effort. They got the first round bye and they were also the first seed in the league, which means they actually got opponent selection. Obviously, they did select PGO. I know a lot of people were surprised by that. Were you surprised by that, ZPM? And do you have any idea why? Obviously we can't get inside the brain of Collective Effort, but do you have any idea why they would have decided to face PGO instead of Limitless Future?
Well, first off, on the blind picking, I only blind pick Ivern. Just had to throw that out there. But no, I mean it's hard to say, obviously, without talking to either of them. But if I was collective, I probably would have. I mean, no offense, Odd Mitch, but I probably would have chosen PGO. But that could be a bit of hindsight after playing um, against Limitless in playoffs already. But when we played PGO last, it didn't feel as difficult of a game to me as it did when we played Limitless. If I remember, I think it was a 2-0, but I think the first game we played against them was a bit of an uphill battle, but we won, and the second one was less of an uphill battle. But if I was collective watching some of those games, I'd probably lean towards PGO. I think it's kind of a toss a little bit because I think Limitless and Predictive are both respectable teams. So either way, I mean, it's not like it's going to be a cakewalk, but
Yeah, absolutely. And personally, I do also kind of wonder how much of it is kind of the seeking of revenge for collective effort. I mean, I think that obviously either of these teams are going to be good, tough matchups for collective effort. So I wonder if they kind of want to come out swinging and show, hey, we can beat PGO. It was a fluke that we lost to them before, and we really are this first seeded team. We play to that level. So, that could be part of it too, in my eyes.
Could be because of the Trash Talk channel. I feel like I see Collective and Puff Zone in there all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think today there was some talk of, I know a lot of the pictures for collective effort are rats, and I believe Huffzone said that he was going to exterminate them or something like that. So definitely
That sounds about right.
Yeah, definitely some of the bigger trash talk. And I guess another question that I have about this matchup, and either of you can feel free to respond if you have any thoughts, but, both Collective and Lost Chapter, I suppose, they're coming off a bye. And I just wonder, when you're coming off a bye instead of a hype playoff victory, how does that affect your mental? Do you think that the bye is, something that gives them an advantage, or is it something that might set you behind because you haven't played competitively in so long? And again, either of you can feel free to chime in.
I think it depends on how you use the buy. If you use the buy as a break, I mean, that could go either way. I mean, sometimes it's good to refresh, regenerate. But if you use the buy as a break to study the opponents that you're going to be playing against, because the people that they've played against have already played games. They have up to date information. Assuming they've watched those, so that's an advantage. But I mean, the momentum for Predictive and Limitless can help carry them into a more even matchup too, I think.
Absolutely. And so finally, coming up for some predictions. I know, Odd Mitch, I'm pretty sure I know which team you're going to pick, but what's your prediction in terms of the games?
I'm gonna say 3-2. I think it's gonna be a really close series, and they're a good team. I'm not sleeping on them or disrespecting them at all. I know what we're up against, but I think I think we're up to the task.
Absolutely. And ZPM, what about you?
3-1 Collective, I think.
Okay, and I have a 3-2 for Collective. I think it's going to be a really close matchup. I know I was on the podcast yesterday with Brankles and Hiccup. Both of them did select PGO, so Oddmint, you do have believers out there, absolutely. Either way, I think this is going to be really close. I know I really respect Predictive Gaming for being a team that is, real fighters. I don't think there's any matchup that they would go down without swinging hard in. So, I am really expecting it to be a close match. So I'm really excited. So we have quite a bit of time left, actually. So I wanted to touch a little bit on the patch. I know I didn't write this down, so hopefully I'm just going to try to catch you off guard a little bit with some of these questions. So, Odd Mitch, we had some nerfs to some of the healing supports after some of the buffs that happened to healing after the last patch. Do you have any thoughts on Sona and Soraka, like in your solo queue games? Did you feel like they were overpowered champions? Are those champions you play, or are you happy to see them go down?
I picked up a bit of Soraka. I didn't really touch Sona. I think they're kind of anti-fun champions. Not really my
Absolutely.
cup of tea personally.
Yeah.
I don't know if they necessarily need to be nerfed as far as there's definitely counterplay to them. Like in competitive in the CCS, no one picked them up at all really. There was a couple Soraka games maybe, but overall though, I don't. It's whatever. Like yeah, they kind of got nerfed. I think Soraka got what 20 points off of her ult. So what's that really gonna do? And then like it's just so easy to counter those champions. You just draft Pantheon or Nautilus and you just permakill them. So I don't know. I'm not really moved either way by the nerfs.
And I think that despite the nerfs, something that I've seen a lot actually in some challenger queue I've been watching on people's streams is seeing the Soraka and Sona paired together in the bottom lane, actually kind of bringing back that Sona as the carry. And for me, that's something that's just like really, really annoying. I really did not prefer that meta. Did you have any experience playing with your AD taking up the Sona back when there was like the Sona and Tom Kench or, those kind of things?
Yeah, I wasn't the Sona, I was the Taric, but yeah, we
Oh yeah,
dabbled a
Sona
bit.
and Tarek, that's right.
We dabbled a bit. There's a couple games where we would draft Sona Taric, and then we'd have like this real toxic shit like Tryndamere and then Master Yi and a bunch of stuff that just wants to dive. Um, I don't, I don't mind the meta personally when there's two supports in the bot lane. When it's Sona Soraka, it's a little worse because it's like if you can't kill them through the healing, then obviously something's wrong. It's a different way to play the game, but again, there's counterplay to it. Like, oh, you're gonna draft two enchanters, and we'll just take Kog'Maw and get a free lane and shred everyone later. But yeah, it's definitely not preferred. I don't think it's like super healthy for the game or anything, and it just stalls games out to 45 minutes for basically no reason.
And ZPM, you have a champ pool that's been called unconventional. I know at times. Do you have
Since the
any
dawn of
thoughts about?
time, since the dawn
Yeah.
of time.
Do you have any thoughts about some of the mid laners that have been buffed? I don't know if you have the patch notes in front of you, but I don't know if there are any ones that you play. But is this, how is this for your game on this 11-19 patch?
Yeah, I kind of have been looking at them a little bit the past couple days. Been busy with work, to be honest, so I haven't been able to look at it a ton. But the Fizz buff, none of them are champions that I play, because, I mean, I played whack-ass champions. But the Fizz buff is what stands out to me is a little weird, because if I remember correctly, last patch they nerfed Fizz, and it feels like this patch they're like just completely turning around and deciding to buff him instead. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, with how they're changing his passive and increasing the damage in his R, it feels like maybe it's more towards a little bit more of a glass cannon. But on principle, I'm upset that there's a Silas buff.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you about Silas. I feel like we've definitely seen a good amount of that champion already throughout, especially competitive in this season of play. So I'm not really sure why they want to keep it back in. The only thing that I can think of for Fizz and Silas, and then also Akali, who a lot of people say this buff isn't nearly enough to get her back in the game. But I feel like, I think I touched on this on the analyst desk last week too, but I know Riot always likes to look for getting these assassin champions kind of back into the meta for Worlds, just because they're really exciting to watch. So I suspect that has a little bit to do with it, especially for Akali. It's just a little bit of a quality of life buff. Again, still, I know Shin Yuna from Lost Chapter last week was talking about how there's still a lot of issues with the energy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not enough for some of these Worlds players to go back to Akali, especially if they're able to get the counter pick. Personally, also going back to the Fizz, I love playing Fizz. I'm just a scrub, but I love this champion. I feel like it's just one that once you get ahead, you can just absolutely dominate lane. So it's exciting to me to see them kind of revert some of those nerfs, and it's been something that's actually part of why I've been interested to see Whole Grain Man from Predictive Gaming picking it up more, is because it's not something that I see that much in the meta right now. I think being a Fizz player is kind of a particular thing. So that's exciting as well.
What's that?
When we can tell you a secret.
Of course.
When we picked Fizz in that game, I had never seen him play it. We never played Inscrims or anything. It was literally out of nowhere. And he just popped off on it. Also, that Fizz, I don't think it was necessarily like aimed to be a nerf. I think they were trying to like change his identity to be more of like a AP fighter, and it just like completely fell short.
Okay, that makes sense.
They changed his passive to where like he was taking more damage, but they took damage off the ult to compensate. It was just weird. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of like half-assed. I feel like they should have gone all in if that was what they were
Yeah,
aiming to
I could
do.
agree with that. I definitely got the impression that Riot was like, no, just kidding, we don't want to do that.
Yeah,
But
it's like it just doesn't exist
yeah,
anymore. Like, okay.
to note on the Akali though, I actually don't mind if Akali's good in the meta because I have respect for Akali players. I used to have a friend who was ridiculously good Akali one trick, and when you're good at Akali, it's very impressive. When you pop off with Fizz in one lane, it feels less impressive.
I like Akali, but like, does anyone really want to see here like 100% presence at Worlds, like pick and ban every single game? Because that's why they always have such a hard time balancing her. Because
Yeah.
like, she has a high skill expression. So like pros, if you give her even a tiny buff, they pick her up and start popping off again, and then it's either pick or ban. It's just you never want a champion to be like that. 'Cause it just kind
Same
of
reason I can't
makes the
play
meta
Azir in
stale.
ranked.
Right, exactly. Azir's another one of those champions. Like if they gave Azir a tiny buff before Worlds, like
Yeah.
everybody knows what it's for.
I actually am. I just pulled the patch notes up here, and I remembered that Galio was actually getting a small buff on this patch. I think it's a revert of a previous nerf, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like it's personally unneeded. I
his
feel
W
already pretty
cooldown
strong.
going down with. I think W is maxed first on Galio support, if I
It
remember
is,
correctly.
yeah.
Yep.
Like I think it's mostly supposed to be a support buff.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll affect mid a ton, but I mean, I'll take it.
I mean, still though, even Galio support didn't feel like awful to play. Like we still flexed it a bit on our
Mhm.
team, and I thought it was still a strong pick.
Yeah, and I feel like to touch on that as well, again, from a competitive lens, Galio is always a champion that does really well in competitive play just because of the way that you're able to layer the abilities. And
Mhm.
obviously, we know Jarvan jungle, another, and I've even seen some Jarvan top lane, even some Jarvan support has been another really strong one right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see teams picking up, especially the two of those in tandem. I know we've seen it a bit in CCS as well. But any other thoughts on the patch before I move forward?
I think Poppy's broken and nobody knows it yet.
In top lane?
Yeah, they changed their passive to where it's okay. So it was 16, 12, and 8 seconds. Now it's 13, 10, and 7. So it's just opening up your window to be able to trade a lot more favorably. Um, I think she's underplayed and underutilized, and I think the buff was like hey, remember this champion? She's actually really good. You should pick her up type thing. I don't know if she necessarily even needed it to begin with.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, definitely Poppy is another one that we saw just being ubiquitous in the top lane and competitive for a really long time. So something that players definitely have in their wheelhouse. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that come out again. That's another one that actually pairs up really well with the Jarvan, just because being able to create terrain, it actually also really meshes well with Trundle, which is something that I think even despite the nerfs, we might still see popping up either in the support or the jungle position. So both of those have really strong interaction. So I think we'll see those again too. ZPM, you have anything else about it before we move on?
No,
Awesome.
the
Well,
Shroud Vex, but
yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that's
I guess
tight.
any thoughts from either of you on Vex? We haven't touched on that yet. I know I'm not super familiar with what she does. I know she's supposed to go to the mid lane. Any thoughts?
I
She's tight.
I was playing her in a co-op versus AI game actually right before this just to try her out. And I feel like if you layer your abilities correctly, her CC is going to be very annoying. And I'm going to enjoy playing Vex because I feel like it will be a decent pick into Assassins, actually. So
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's gonna be hard to balance. Like how Seraphine
yeah,
was on
yeah.
release, how she was just played in mid ADC and support. I think we might see another situation like that here with Vex because her kit is pretty nice, but not
Hmm.
like she's designed nicely. You know, it's not
Hmm.
like when Silas came out or Aphelios and everybody's like, "What the hell is this?" Like,
Hmm.
there's clear counterplay. You know when to pick her. You know kind of what she does, and I think, I'm a fan. I like the champion.
All right. Well, we have something a little bit exciting that I didn't even expect coming into the analyst desk, which is that we get to have an exclusive first look announcement here on the analyst desk. We talked already talked extensively about the all CCS teams. We actually have the announcement for the CCS MVP, and the MVP of the CCS this split is Philly B, the mid laner from Collective Effort. So obviously, we've already talked about Philly B a lot so far. Both of you have spoken to their talents. I personally am excited to see this announcement, and I'm really pumped up to be able to cast Philly B on Monday going against your team, Odd Mitch, Predictive Gaming, because I haven't really been able to see Philly B very much. So I think they've been on the stream one time when they sent in a VOD, and it was just a VOD of them absolutely smashing one of the lower level teams. So I appreciated both of your insight about that. Personally, I will reveal, and I think I've said it before, that Gregorio from Lost Chapter was my vote for MVP, but maybe that's just my bias from being able to see him on the stream a little bit more. Also, my bias towards junglers and just the way that they kind of facilitate the whole game. But congratulations to Philly B for his victory, and that's our MVP for the CCS this split. So
It's all right. It's the right call, right decision. That's who I voted for. I think Gregorio benefits, I think, a lot from his teammates because their whole team is kind of stacked. And Philly B, I think, has some clear weaknesses on his roster, and he just makes up for them. Like, the team comes and goes as he plays, and I think he is probably the best player in the league. So I think that's the right decision.
absolutely makes sense. ZPM, anything to say about this? I know you already talked a little bit about it.
Congrats.
Awesome. Short and sweet. I
right.
love it. Well, we're coming to the end here of the analyst desk. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. And I want to know if y'all have any closing remarks kind of about the rest of this season. Odd Mitch, if you wanted a platform to say any trash talk against Collective Effort, I know Huff Zone would be proud of you. Do you have anything to say? This is your chance.
Well, I had a prepared closing statement. Not really here to trash on anyone. Collective is a good team, and I literally said in the statement, but the best player in the league, so confirmed. I expect a good series, but I do have confidence in my team. And Philly B said that we have, I quote, shit drafts and a shit team. So we're fired up. We're ready for this series. Can't wait for Monday to get here.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I know this is the closing, but I just want to say again, I would definitely push back against that. I really like watching y'all and the way that you have some unique kind of bottom lane composition or combinations. Obviously, they can see your draft, so I don't feel like that's giving too much away, but I think that's a huge strength of your team and kind of the way that you're able to both be carries in the bottom lane. And then obviously Huff Zone in the top lane, he's going to be super competitive. He's not going to bow down to anybody. But ZPM, you got anything else before we're done here?
No, good luck against Collective.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Once again, Odd Mitch and ZPM, I really appreciate you both being here alongside me. My first time hosting, so thanks for your patience and everything. And thanks to everybody for watching. And of course, don't forget to tune in. When in just about 20 minutes or something like that, we're going to have our first semifinal matchup between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future. I'm excited. I know lots of you are excited too, so don't change that dial and stay right here because we're going to be right back in a little bit. Thanks, everybody.
on, everybody? We are back in the Classic Championship Series for the semifinals of Season 0, the inaugural season. Today, we got a fire matchup as number 2 Lost Chapter takes on number 5 Limitless Future. I'm Rod Chains, joined by Elsa the Queen. Elsa, you ready for today?
I'm absolutely ready. I'm so excited for this matchup between two teams that have definitely proven themselves to be at the top of the CCS. We know Lost Chapter, arguably the top team in the league. The only series that they lost in the entire split were FFs because they couldn't be there. Limitless Future, they've had a few more stumbles in the road, but have been super huge lately. They've been on the stream the last 2 weeks, just absolutely dominating. So I'm excited to be here as we've already jumped into the Champion Select.
Bans are coming through for both of these teams. Lost Chapter taking away the Jhin and the Jarvan. We saw Myth Jones play Jarvan a few times last week and the week before as well. And, you know, we know Myth Jones as one of these junglers who likes to be active early.
Yeah, absolutely. And Myth Jones, he's got a huge test for him today because he's taken on Gregorio in the jungle. You know, they already took away his Lee Sin because he is just an absolute monster in this champion. But make no mistake, Gregorio, he is not a one-trick player. He can pick up absolutely anything and just dominate on it. So I'm excited to see this. I honestly think that Myth Jones, he's going to have his hands full and then some in this jungle matchup. Now I'm also, you know, as we see Ziggs as this first pick, so definitely seeing some focus on the bot lane early on. I'm actually excited for this top side as the biggest matchup within this. Martial Arts for Y. He's the top laner for Limitless Future. He's third team all CCS. Kevin Chen, he was first team all CCS. So these are some of the top laners in this league. We're gonna see them going at each other head to head, and with the Ziggs and the Misfortune locked in, two super strong bot lane carries so far. Misfortune was huge in that series that we casted together last week, Riot Chains, and Lost Chapter, they had a break last week, but they're obviously on the same page.
Absolutely, and you know, we're already seeing this bottom lane for Lost Chapter being locked in here, the Misfortune Rel combination. And Rel is a champion that I feel like we haven't seen too much. Champion that comes with a lot of CC, but also able to be punished very, very hard if, you know, mis-executed a little bit. So I'm interested to see how this combination of ultimates will work in the bottom lane for Lost Chapter. You know, we have Deprapine and Yama piloting these two champions here, and they've been going off this whole season. So I'm excited to see on the other side, Limitless Future locking in the Victor Poppy. Poppy's a pick that we don't really see too often, but could be going in the top or the jungle, not too sure.
Yeah, and actually just a few minutes ago, if you were watching the analyst desk, we had Oddmitch obviously has the prediction cards already in his hands because he mentioned on the analyst desk that Poppy was this pick. He expected to see a lot more. He said he thought it was busted in the top lane and that people just hadn't really caught on to it yet. So not really that surprised to see the Poppy coming out from Marshall. He also talked on the podcast this week about how he had some things prepared that he didn't think Lost Chapter was going to be ready for. I think Poppy might have been one of those picks as Lost Chapter. They're going to pick up the Syndra. Shin Yuna has been absolutely huge on this pick. When we've seen him throughout the season on the stream, taking that Syndra that can go into pretty much anything. This time it's going to be against the Victor, and we know Fonzo, he's also a really strong mid laner as well. Both of these, or so rather, Fonzo was the second team all CCS player. He's so good at taking these blind picks. That's going to be our mid lane matchup. With the Trundle picked up as well for Lost Chapter, I do expect that one to be going into the jungle for Gregorio. We've seen him pick that one up earlier, and I think that Trundle actually also matches up really, really well against this Poppy having a nice subjugate target.
I was honestly thinking after I, you know, said what I was saying, I think this Poppy could have been taken into the bottom lane actually for Snow Life. Obviously, it's Snow Life, so there's a lot of wild picks that come out of this player, but we do see the Thresh locked in. Thresh is a good pick into the Rel because you can't flare out of the W. And then Alawi, the pick into the top lane, so it looks like we're going to get Myth Jones on the Poppy this game.
Yeah, and that totally catches me off guard, and I'm a little bit scared now, to be honest, seeing Alawi just being a blind pick into this top lane. Like, we know that Alawi can be a champion that can be strong situationally, but if I was Marshall right now, I would be feeling pretty nervous to just be giving to just be giving Kevin Chen whatever he wants into it, and it is going to be the Mordekaiser. So to be honest, we know Mordekaiser. We've seen it a lot in this league. Mordekaiser is a really strong pick in lane into just about anything. So I'm excited to see Kevin Chen go into this matchup. I do think it could be worse for Alawi. Not exactly sure about that one-on-one, but I feel like Alawi probably will do okay. But what I also know about Alawi is that Lost Chapter, their team, they play really well as a 5-man squad, and I think that that's so critical against Alawi, right? Knowing that to not bunch up when she pops that ultimate, and having so much AoE damage. So just excited. I am excited though to see that matchup. Speaking also a little bit more about the all CCS players, both of the bottom lane members from Lost Chapter are all CCS, both Depperpine as well as Yoma, and then for Limitless Future, Snowlife in the support role. You already spoke to Rychains about how he's such a good player. He is also second team all CCS. So we got a lot of all CCS players. I think that's obvious because this is a semifinal matchup, but just a lot of talent about to go head to head on the Rift.
I'm trying to remember if this is correct or not, but I feel like in week 1 of this season, I casted Lost Chapter, and Kevin Chen played Mordekaiser, and I think he 1v5 and got a quadra kill, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think I remember that too. They were against Predictive Gaming Odin. That was one of their close series. So yeah, absolutely. That was a really fun one to watch. And it is notable as well that I believe, again, that Limitless was also one of the only teams to take a game off of Lost Chapter. I think it was Predictive Gaming Odin and Limitless Future. Yep, Limitless faced them in week 3 and were able to take a game off them. So, Lost Chapter is a team that they've shown very few chinks in their armor, but they have shown one against Limitless Future. So, this is going to be a really close matchup. And I just totally kind of shit the bed, to be completely honest, saying that Poppy was going to be in the top lane, because I just absolutely assumed that. But Poppy instead going to the jungle. Poppy jungle, I feel like that's something we saw a little bit back in the day when Poppy was absolutely ubiquitous in that top lane. But interested to see it. Certainly hoping that Myth Jones can use Trundle's terrain creation against him. I've seen that in the past, just being able to, use your E and stun the Trundle into his own pillar. So we'll see if they're able to take advantage of that in this game. But both of these team comps definitely have some strong kind of scaling elements. I will say that one thing is, I think that Limitless Future is a little bit heavy on the magic damage for me. Usually when we see this Ziggs, we either see it with a heavy AD jungler or an AD mid lane, but instead it is going to be the Victor and then the Poppy. Obviously the Alawi does bring some AD as well, but wondering if Gregorio does opt for more of a tanky build on this Trundle, he might just be able to soak up a lot of that damage at the Rel. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the second item is going to be from Gregorio. I know that a lot of Trundles, when they're ahead, when they don't feel pressured, build a Titanic Hydra second. And so that's something to look out for in this game. It'll be interesting to see if he opts to go for that, just because of, he's not going to really... I mean, there's not many people that can actually duel him on the Limitless Future side. So we'll end up, we'll have to see what happens here. I think the Trundle pick's fine into Poppy, because you can, at least it's a subjugate target that can give you a lot of resistances. But, either way, we will see what happens here. This is game 1 of the semifinals. And just looking at the team compositions before we take a break, who do you give the slight advantage to?
I think I'm going to give the slight advantage over to the side of Lost Chapter. They're my team that I picked to win the series, but my key player that I'm actually watching that I haven't touched on a ton right now is Shin Yuna in the mid lane for Lost Chapter. They're on this Syndra pick, which is something I know that there's a specific highlight, I think, against Oblivion Esports, where he got a 3-person stun on this Syndra. He really knows this pick well. If there's someone that I want to point to that got absolutely snubbed out of the all CCS teams, it would be Shin Yuna. He was on the analyst desk last week, that they switched from support to mid lane, and just absolutely, have been dominating that mid lane, which has been really impressive. And Fonzo is going to be a big test for them. So I'm just really excited for that matchup. And I think if the Syndra can start to set up some of the stuns, that's another thing that I didn't really touch on, is the Trundle with the pillar totally sets that up too. Can kind of funnel players into that Syndra stun. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited for both teams. I do give the slight edge to Lost Chapter, but I think it's going to be pretty even, right, Chains?
It will be a close series indeed here, as both of these teams want to make it into the finals. We're going to take a short break for this competitive integrity spectator delay, but we'll be back in a few short minutes for game 1 of the semifinals between Limitless Future and Lost Chapter, so don't go anywhere. Are on to the rift for game number 1 between Limitless Future and Lost Chapter. For Limitless Future in the top lane, Martial Arts on the Alawi, Myth Jones in the jungle on Poppy, Fonzo in the mid lane on the Victor, and Omnific and Snowlife rounding out the bottom lane with Ziggs and Thresh.
And for Lost Chapter, we got all CCS player Kevin Chen in the top lane on the Mordekaiser, also all CCS player Gregorio on the Trundle, Shin Yuna in the mid lane on the Syndra, Depperpine also, and Yoma, also all CCS on the Misfortune and the Rel.
Stacked rosters all over the board for this game, to be honest with you. I mean, 4 out of the 5 on Lost Chapter are indeed all CCS players, and you know, that's what you come to expect. The only games they've lost this season have been the forfeits, so I expect a lot from this team here. This should be a banger. The last time these two teams matched up, Lost Chapter went and won the series 2-1, so Limitless Future was able to take a game off of them. I do want to highlight before we actually get into, you know, this game, is look at the rune choice here. Myth Jones opting for the Dark Harvest on the Poppy.
Yeah, and that shows me that he's going to be a little bit more aggressive with his build than I probably would have anticipated. Maybe still going full tank, but you know, I kind of honestly, what I was anticipating was Yeah, just something that was just a little bit more safe. So I do want to point out that, martial arts, he does end up leashing for Myth Jones, but he was able to get the kill, the execute on that ward early on, so he is going to get the level 2 in the top lane. Not sure if he's going to be able to take advantage of that, but that's something that we should definitely watch here. And also both junglers, they're just kind of going to be going opposite pathways, so probably each picking up a Scuttle Crab, unless they try to go for some kind of early gank path, which is honestly something that I think we could see from this Poppy. Like the second that she picks up her heroic charge, she should be able to have some aggression. So excited to see where she paths. Look like she is going to do the whole top side of her jungle first, and we're just seeing some pretty even farming here to start out. But I anticipate that with the CC from both of these teams, as Snow Life is going to go wide on the death sentence, we'll see some aggression early on.
Yeah, definitely some action. I wanted to mention to just keep an eye on the level 2, the early level 2s coming in from the Limitless future bottom lane, but Lost Chapter knows they've been here before, able to just stay back, farm away, stay safe. And the CS is about even, but the wave is pushing, I believe, towards Deprapine, so we'll have a chance at least to pick up the rest of those minions there. And for the time being, Gregorio looking for a play in this mid lane here. As stun's going to land, Fonzo forced to burn the flash out, but the pillow's going to push him back in. Do they have enough damage here? As Fonzo taking really Gregorio under the tower. Will flash away from that tower shot, and the first blood goes over to Lost Chapter.
And I guess I would have to, as we do see some aggression in the bottom lane.
Playing the bottom lane here as the hook's going to go wide, but now Deprapine is taking pretty low. Ignite's going to take down on both AD carries as the heal comes out already from Lost Chapter, and now Yama walking really, really slow here as Myth Jones in the area. But it looks like there's no further aggression from the Limitless bottom lane, and Kevin Chen having a rough time right now against this Alawi in the top lane.
Yeah, and just going back to that gank, I mean, I would have to see it again, but I'm not sure if it was Fonzo flashing away from the Scatter the Weak right away from the Syndra, but if you are that Victor, because you're an immobile champion, you really want to be saving your flash there, as Yoma might look for some aggression. Looks like he's going to hold off, but, when Fonzo puts his flash down early, I can almost hear the team the comms from Lost Chapter in my ear with Gregorio saying, hey, I still have the pillar available, we're totally able to get this guy. And now with Fonzo with the flash down, I would absolutely anticipate that Gregorio is going to go back, but right now it looks like he might be looking top lane.
Martial Arts could be in trouble here. He's going to take the soul from Kevin Chen. We'll see if there's enough damage. The pillow's going to knock him back. Red buff ticking down, and Gregorio going to find the second kill, but now we're going into the bottom lane here as Everpine has to flash away. Death Sentence again from Snow Life is off, but Yama really low, but no mana on him. Mythic takes the tower shot, has to burn the heal to try to run away, and will survive for the time being. No further aggression coming out here as low health bars all around in this bottom lane. This Gregorio still on the top side. Fonzo taking a little bit of trading back here as Limitless bot lane will be able to get this push in, but it looks like Lost Chapter doesn't want to give it up. Going to stay in, make sure to get all these minions, and then take the reset after.
Yeah, and honestly, I would have to...
Oh, wait a minute! As Deprapine walks a bit too far forward, Hook's gonna land and take him down as Omnific gets their first kill of the game.
And I was just about to criticize the target selection in that gank by Snow Life, saying, hey, why didn't you just go for that hook on Yoma, and get the easy kill? But there, he nails the hook on Deprapine, and honestly, right there, Deprapine, all CCS, first team bottom laner, that's just not what you expect from him. He was so far up there, not respecting on this misfortune, doesn't have a flash, Snow Life able to punish him.
Snow Life punishing with these hook champions. We've seen him on champions like a Mumu, like the Thresh, even the Seraphine. It's not a hook champion, but either way, finding the crucial CC targets, and a nice hook there as the Ignites are going to come back up for both of these supports. Likely see another battle here, and now Gregorio and Lost Chapter are looking for the dragon. Myth Jones on the way down here as the teleport comes into the mid lane from Myth Jones, and now fighting into the top lane as Martial Arts could be in trouble. Gonna slam it down, and we'll see if Kevin Jen has the damage to take him down. Into the death realm they go here as the tentacles are still slapping. Nice side step away there as the tentacles are coming down. Whoa! Auto from each of these guys is gonna win it. Martial Arts gets the solo kill and brings it back. Oh my gosh.
And if you are Limitless Future, you got to be so pumped up right now seeing Marshall being able to pick up that 1v1 on kill on Kevin Chen, because I already alluded to it in the Champion Select Right Chains, but this is going to be such a critical matchup in this series. Both of these top laners are so strong at doing what they do, and Martial Arts, we might have, kind of doubted his counterpick after he got ganked so early, as Kevin Chen does try to run him down, but being able to pick up that solo kill is just so huge.
Oh, looking for a play down here as the stun's going to find two. Yama could be in trouble. Has the flash available, though, as we'll see. Omnific looking for the snow. Oh, Death Sentence kill you! And Snow Life goes crazy again. Myth Jones going to find the kill there.
And Snow Life just smurfing on this Thresh pick, and we knew we were going to get an exciting matchup. This is exactly what we wanted to see, with both teams just being so even. It is a little bit of a gold lead for Limitless Future, but, just really, really close so far. Loving to see this from both of the teams. But honestly, right now, giving a little bit of an advantage over to Limitless Future. They're just kind of having these pure outplays with that hook in the bottom lane. Martial Arts taking that 1v1 in the top lane, and we have to give it to this team. I think you couldn't help but being pretty pretty intimidated as Gregorio's coming mid again.
Fonzo could be in trouble. Is gonna pop the ultimate, but it just doesn't matter because Shin, Yuna, and Gregorio have too much damage. Gregorio now 2-0-1 on the Shen. You can see the Sheen picked up Divide Sunder, likely the choice of mythic item for the Trundle. Usually what you see.
Yeah, and it's so important that Gregorio is able to get ahead in this matchup. I already talked about how he is definitely, for me, he's the biggest player on this team. They play around him. This time he's on the Trundle. It really has a choice of whether or not he wants to go for more of a team-oriented build or something a little bit more aggressive. And when you have these resources that you're able to get early on, I would anticipate that he goes for the Divine Sunder, and then, as you had already said, Riot Chains, maybe going into something like a Ravenous Hydra afterwards, just to be able to get that sustain, get that lifesteal later in the team fights. And, Gregorio should be able to kind of run the show here for Lost Chapter. That's the other thing about Shin Yuna, as an individual player, maybe he doesn't shine because he's just so good at facilitating his jungler, and we saw that there in that mid lane fight, picking up another kill onto Fonzo. That one, I believe, does go over to Shin Yuna, but just doing a great job of stunning up the enemy mid laner and allowing his jungler to shine.
Okay, we're gonna get another fight into the top lane. Kevin Chen wants revenge. Into the Death Realm they go as the tentacles are slapping down. Gregorio is here for when they come out of the realm, and now Marshall has to run, but is on the wrong side of the lane. We'll see if Alawi has enough damage to follow, but no, as Gregorio goes on a killing spree. Now 3-0-1 on the Trundle.
Yeah, and as great as that other outplay was from Martial Arts, he's just getting a little bit greedy here, as Myth Jones may be looking for a little bit of a play, but he is going to back off. And, both of these ganks, Marshall, we just see him push up a little bit too far. He doesn't have any wards, and maybe just focusing a little bit too much on the fact that he has what he considers maybe to be this stronger matchup in the top lane. It was Kevin Chen, he was able to pick up the Mordekaiser, which is, his champion of choice, but when we look over at the gold, it is going to be pretty even. Alawi setting at about 300 gold above the Mordekaiser, and we know that Alawi, it's a champion. It does do really well later on in team fights in terms of the AoE damage. It does scale really well, so Marshall's still in a pretty good spot, but you got to get your wards up there.
Absolutely, and it's going to be rough, for this Alawi. If she gets behind too far, Marshall has to kind of do something to come back into this game. You have to imagine Myth Jones, but hold on, playing at the bottom lane. Deprapine looking for it, but the hook's gonna land, and a bullet time over the top is doing a lot of damage. Yama taking really low, and will finally go down, but Myth Jones gonna get credit for that one. But look at these 3 low health bars. Gregorio is in his bottom side river, but instead gonna turn their sights onto Fonzo, who just burned the flash, and you're gonna go down. Shin Yuna gonna get credit for that one, and now we'll see if Gregorio looks to go forward in this bottom lane play. Death Sentence gonna find the mark here. Snow Life flaying under the tower. Gregorio finds one with the chomp. Omnific, the next target. Subjugate flashing forward. Gregorio, let's go. Getting a double kill in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and Gregorio just gets everything right there. Fonzo, he is not looking like himself in this matchup, maybe cracking a little bit under the pressure, to be honest, because he is moving forward through this river in a way that's just so disrespectful. He doesn't know where the Trundle is. He knows that Shinyuna must be right after him, and if you are playing the victor in this situation, you can't take that path and expect to win. And then in the bottom lane, Snowlife, nice hook onto Gregorio, but, are you bringing him under the tower, or are you just bringing him over to kill you? And it seems like it was the latter, with Gregorio even flashing forward to pick up the double kill, showing us why he's the best jungler in the CCS.
The gold lead right now sitting at 1.7k in favor of Lost Chapter. They have 2 dragons to their name, as the Mountain Soul will appear on the Rift. Yama trying to make a play happen in the mid lane, but Fonzo is okay. Now Kevin Chen and Marshall going back at it. Gonna find the soul away as the tentacles are slamming down, but Kevin Chen looks to be getting the better of this trade for the time being. Into the death realm we go here, as Martial Arts is trying to live, but he's doing a lot of damage. Actually, he's gonna get the solo kill onto Kevin Chen.
Yeah, and once again, Marshall getting the best out of this 1v1. It seems pretty clear that Kevin Chen, if his jungler is not there, it doesn't really work out for him, as, Snowlife and Omnific just continually looking for having these aggressive looks in the bot lane. Hook gonna come down.
Another hook's gonna land, bring Yama in, as the Mega Inferno Bomb is gonna kind of go a little bit errant there, but into the top lane, Gregorio just runs down Marshall and just gonna get another kill.
And that's a little bit concerning, to be honest, that Gregorio is just able to 1v1 the top laner. Obviously, Marshall was at pretty low health, but Gregorio just absolutely smurfing all over the Rift, as usual, in this matchup. So far, 6 kills already picked up on the Trundle, and it is going to be difficult to kill this Trundle into the team fights, especially if he is able to get the Subjugate down onto someone like Myth Jones or Snowlife. So, we'll see kind of how that plays out, but I would be very concerned right now if I'm Limitless Future. The gold lead still only sitting at around 1k, but it's going to take a lot to take down this Trundle, and with the Merc Treads already picked up by Trundle, it is going to start to reduce some of the magic damage, as I talked about. Omnific and Fonzo, the 2 main carries for this team, doing primarily magic damage, so is going to limit the ability of them to take down Gregorio in the team fights, and we'll just have to see once those break out. But, so far Gregorio's basically just been running around the Rift, just, ganking over and over again, but despite that, he is still going to be up in CS as well against Poppy, who, we already talked about earlier how the Poppy did pick up that different rune choice, and it is going to be the Divine Sunderer for Myth Jones.
Divine Sunder coming out for both of these junglers here, and I mean, you have to imagine that Gregorio is going to have a really, really good time in this game. I mean, you don't have a lot of damage when it comes to the Limitless Future roster. I mean, look at how far behind Fonzo is. He's really not going to be doing anything until 40 minutes into this game. Omnific, he does have the Leandres, but he's just going to get one shot before he can even get any damage off. And then Myth Jones is not ahead either, but we're going to see a fight now coming into the bottom lane as Magastorm's going to find 2. Mega Inferno Bomb will hit 1 as Snowlife's taking really low, as Yama's going to get the credit for that one. Fonzo now could be in trouble here. Going to try to bring the Chaos Storm over the wall to get Shinyuna, but Shinyuna's okay, and now it's bullet time, baby, as Deprapine guns the rest of the team down. Gregorio goes godlike, and a 4-for-0 on the bottom side. Do we make it 5? Martial Arts trying to find Kevin Chen on the backside, but Kevin Chen brings the mace down at 5-for-0 ace. Just under 15 minutes for Lost Chapter.
And it all goes to hell here for Limitless Future. Such a bad fight for them in the bottom side of the map. Now we're finally seeing the impact of Gregorio having all that gold. And I just really want to point out the communication and the trust that this Lost Chapter team has for each other. As we saw Gregorio, he would have been able to pick up the final hits on that kill on, I believe it was Fonzo. But instead, he just backs up. He says, Shinyuna, Yoma, you got this one. I'm going to continue to chase after Omnific and Myth Jones. He does so. He picks up even more kills, sporting the 700 gold bounty, and also Kevin Chen turning around this matchup that has been favored towards Marshall so far, picking up the solo kill onto this Mordekaiser. And this is something that we've actually seen before from Kevin Chen as well, especially playing that Mundo pick, which we know he loves to play so much too. So, very exciting to see from this Lost Chapter lineup. At this point, they've definitely taken over the game. It's about a 4,500 gold lead for them, and we'll have to see, will Limitless Future be able to turn it around? Because I think that's just something that's going to be really hard to do, because Rychains, you talked about how the damage was maybe a little bit less from Limitless Future. Well, there's plenty of damage on this Lost Chapter team. Every single lane, they have a ton of damage. Lots of AoE damage as well between the Syndra as well as especially the MF. But here's Marshall looking for another fight.
Yeah, doing a lot of damage just from that soul, taking it away. But look, 3 members coming into this top side here as Snowlife and Myth Jones try to get something going in this top lane. Death Sentence a little bit wide left here, and Kevin Chen is going to be able to walk it out with the jungler for Limitless Future showing on the top side. That means a dragon for Lost Chapter on the other side of the map. Herald going to be spawned up in this top lane to try to break some of these towers away, but it's going to be a Mountain Soul point at 17 minutes for Lost Chapter.
Yeah, and they are able to get the Rift Herald down in that top lane. Looks like they're going to be able to get a second charge on it as well.
Shin, looking for it. Gonna get stunned under the tower though, as a lot of damage comes through from that Chaos Storm. And Fonzo turns around the 1v1 and almost finds the solo kill, but hold on, Shin Yuna looking for it. Oh no, Scout of the Week and the combination ultimate. But now let's see, as martial arts gets subjugated, bullet time forces the flash out from the Limitless Future top laner, and it looks like now Lost Chapter can threaten this top lane outer tower, but instead looks like they're just opting to take the Scuttle Crab, go into the jungle, try to get some vision, and then maybe look for mid lane.
And Limitless Future is just lucky that Keeper's Verdict for Myth Jones was able to knock Gregorio out of there, because had he been able to stay, had he been able to get down another pillar, it would have been really bad for Limitless Future. I think they would have been able to chase them right down under the tower just because of how tanky this Trundle is. And, speaking of that, we do see the Tiamat coming out from Gregorio, so I think you're right, Rychain. Somewhere in the future, we probably are going to see at least one kind of Hydra, not sure which one it will be. But I also want to point out the dragons in this game, because there are already 3 dragons from Lost Chapter being taken down as Yoma's going to get hooked up.
Hooked up, stunned into the wall here. Nice job by Myth Jones blocking out as Magnusum's going to try to buy some time, but there is no time on the clock. Yama going to go down there and gives a little bit gold back, but
Yeah, just one pick here. Not going to be that big of a deal as Snowlife does look for this hook. Not quite going to work out. But again, with these dragons, especially I think the Mountain Dragon is just so good.
Oh, Omnific has to burn flash away from the pillar, as well as the satchel charge being used to get away from any danger there.
And so once if the Mountain Soul is able to be picked up by Lost Chapter, we already talked extensively about the limited damage available from Limitless Future, and it's just going to get a lot worse when champions like the Mordekaiser, like the Rel, like the Trundle are all able to have that additional shield on top of their health bar. It's just going to make it really, really hard to take down these Lost Chapter members. And speaking of the top lane as we come up here, honestly at this point, I feel like all Kevin Chen really has to do is he does try to go aggressive here, is really, stay.
Yeah. Oh my, just Kevin Chen just easily getting the solo kill there onto martial arts, getting it with no issues at all. And that's, like you said, it's kind of what we can expect at this point in the game.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, all Kevin Chen has to do is go even. Well, he's doing better than going even. He takes down Marshall candidly.
Yama onto Snowlife here is going to flash away early. The pillar is going to take down as the stun's not going to land from Yama, but Gregorio is flashing onto Omnific, going legendary on the Trundle. Anything further is no, as the dragon spawning in just under 2 minutes. I would expect to see Lost Chapter set this play up for this bottom lane objective, and I honestly, once this Mountain Dragon comes in here, there's no way that Gregorio is going to die.
No, not at all. And Gregorio just doing a great job there of keeping track of the cooldowns, knowing that Omnific had just flashed away from his pillar earlier there in the mid lane, and so he just flashes right onto his face. For the Trundle, the flash is honestly pretty expendable just because of the other ways the Trundle does have in order to gap close. Also just so tanky at this point. Also picking up the Sterix Gauge, which is an item that I really love to see, as Myth Jones looking for Deproprine, but Deproprine just too fast. And speaking of the speed from the Misfortune Fortune did pick up the Ghost Blade as the first item, so obviously we do expect to see some lethality builds from the Miss Fortune, but Depper Prime kind of skipping off on the tier, just picking up the Ghost Blade and then also picking up the Eclipse. So really liking this build from the Miss Fortune, just going for that raw ability to have that lethality, and it should just be able to rip through this Limitless Future lineup.
I expect it to indeed, as Depper Prime sitting at about 3 waves up over Omnific, 1, 1, and 2 on the Miss Fortune. Like you said, has the 2 items completed. And I do want to talk a little bit about this Youmuu's Ghost Blade. It did get changed a little bit, and I believe the changes were it got cheaper, and increased like 3 lethality or something like that. But either way, I've been seeing a lot more people build this item, and we are going to get a DC here, as Martial Arts has had enough. Quick little DC. But we should be getting back in shortly here as the ready checks come in pretty instantly, actually.
Yep. Yeah, we should see, Marshall just with that quick disconnect, but looking at these score lines here, I mean, Fonzo, I just expected more of him so far. He blind picks this Victor, he's been really good on blind pick champions in these last couple weeks. He's blind picked the Victor. He's blind picked things like the Corki. He's blind picked the Cassiopeia. And as we get back into game, just getting styled on by Shin Yuna. And I think Shin Yuna kind of making a statement so far in this series saying, Fonzo, he was the second team all CCS mid laner, but that should have been me. I should have been up there. And I would have to agree with him, to be honest, so far, because he's just styling. Now, he has had a lot of help from his jungler Gregorio, as we get a little bit of lag here on my side, but Gregorio has been helping him out, like I said. But right now, look at this dragon. It's up. It's just being done by Lost Chapter.
It's gone, just like that, and a Mountain Soul secured for Lost Chapter. And now you can see 3 members in this topside river for Limitless Future, but look at where Lost Chapter is. They are sprinting towards them, and they know right now they're so far ahead that they're just going to start the Baron up raw. It doesn't even matter that they know that 4 members of Limitless Future are right there. They're just going for it. We'll see. Poppy gonna knock away Gregorio as now the teleport comes in. We're gonna get a big fight here. Teleport's coming in from both of the mid laners in the bot side, and Martial Arts taken really low as the bullet time ripping through the team. Kevin Chen gonna get taken up as a shutdown comes through. A fat magnet storm scattered the weak hits like 4 people, and it doesn't matter because so much damage comes through. Martial Arts really low will go down finally as Gregorio leaves the game now. He's had enough. He didn't give a shutdown away, but either way, the team lost the fight. Actually, the team won the fight. It looked like it was pretty crazy from Limitless, but it ends up being a 3-for-2 in favor of Lost Chapter anyway. So, after this pause, I imagine they're going to go right back.
Yeah, I agree, but that is kind of a pretty game-breaking bug, or pretty game-breaking disconnection, or it could have been, I guess, for Gregorio, since obviously that was such a big fight, and had the Trundle obviously been able to get in there a little bit faster, it would have been a big deal, but now we're going to go back into the game, and we're just going to see Lost Chapter starting up this Baron again, and that's part of what makes this Mountain Soul so very powerful, is that with that additional shield, it means that the Baron does almost no damage, especially if you have someone like Gregorio, or, even Kevin Chen, to be honest, able to tank it up. So, as we see the players saying, maybe it's the Poppy Poppy Ultimate that's bugged, caused Gregorio to get out of the game, but I don't think so. Luckily, Lost Chapter still able to win the fight with Shin Yuna, an absolutely fantastic scatter the week there. As you said, Raichain's hitting, I think, 3 or even 4 members from Limitless Future, and Gregorio, he's the most fed on the member of the team. Lost Chapter, they don't even need him to be able to pick up the fight. Afterwards, they're going to be able to pick up the Baron, and Lost Chapter, they're on a pretty easy road to being able to win Game 1 here.
Lost Chapter right now up 8,000 gold, wearing purple, and have the Mountain Soul to their name. So they are looking very strong right now in Game 1. And I'd imagine that they're going to be at least able to crack open the base with this Baron. I don't really see any way. Still, even more now that the Sterix has been picked up by Gregorio, I don't see any way that Limitless Future can kill this Trundle unless it's 5 members literally only hitting the Trundle and the rest of Lost Chapter is out making sandwiches or something.
And we know what happens if they do that, Ride Chains, which is that Depper Prime and Shin Yuna are just going to absolutely rip through them. And with Kevin Chen having his teleport available, I do anticipate that we're going to see a little bit of a split push set up here. Martial Arts also has his own teleport ready as well, but we've already seen that this Mordekaiser has gotten pretty far ahead in this matchup, should be able to absolutely go toe-to-toe with the Alawe. And as the mid lane starts getting pushed in here, we'll see if Limitless Future will be able to defend.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard defense for sure. They do have some wave clear with the Ziggs and Victor. However, you know, at this point, I honestly think that Lost Chapter can literally just dive under the tower and kill them. I mean, who's going to kill Gregorio?
Yeah.
But we'll see, you know, pressuring onto this mid lane tower here as the mid lane inner will go down. Myth Jones walking over here as Gregorio is going to advance further, burn out the satchel from Omnific. As it looks like a 1-3-1 comes through here from Lost Chapter. Playing the map, playing the macro game, gonna secure these last two outer towers, and now Gregorio might be in trouble. Has to flash away, but Omnific is just getting murdered by the bullet time. Myth Jones is lantern to safety there, and Omnific having to burn both summoner spells to get out of that misfortune ulti, and Shin Yuna still just relentlessly. But is it too much? Mega Inferno Bomb, that was like 17 ultimates burned on the Syndra there. But in the mid lane, look at that. The tower goes down. Martial Arts going to get subjugated. And oh my gosh, where did the Alawi go? Mid lane inhibitor is under siege. Yama has ultimate. Looking for an engage potentially here as the Satchel going to knock Yama away from the death sentence. Now teleport coming in from Kevin Chen. They're looking for the play as Fonzo, the next target. Going to get, no, not pulled back yet as Gregorio hooked under the tower. But living for so long, Sterix pops his Magastorm's going to pull back too as Gregorio is still just diving into the rest of the team, almost into the fountain. He disconnects again. Maybe some sort of issues going on there as now Kevin Chen is sitting in the middle of three members next to the fountain of Limitless Future. Could be a bit too far forward here as the Claw is going to pull back, but it doesn't matter because the shutdown goes to Myth Jones, who goes on a killing spree. Deprapine smacking away at this bot lane inhibitor tower as Gregorio is now back. So 2 inhibs down for Limitless Future here. The base has been cracked open and the gold lead is 10,000.
And I was so confused for a second, right, James, because we just saw Gregorio. I thought, like, is he just joking, you know, running into the fountain, just like kind of has a meme or something? But no, he disconnected. So a little bit unfortunate because I think, honestly, if he didn't, we might have been able to see Lost Chapter, you know, kiting back a little bit and then going back forward to be able to finish the game. But as it is, they were able to pick up 2 inhibitors. So now the super minions, they're going to start to rush into the base. And I wanted to touch on the 1-3-1 strategy a little bit by Lost Chapter, because Shin Yuna has already showed in the side lane that he is able to be such a big threat for Fonzo on this Victor, who still hasn't been able to pick up a kill for himself so far. So when you have that situation where there's not a good match for the Syndra, there's not a good match for the Mordekaiser as well from Kevin Chen, what do you do if you're Limitless Future? You know, instead we do see them piling onto the bottom lane, finally able to pick up Shin Yuna, but then you end up expending so many resources and expending so many ultimate abilities that it just makes it so easy for Lost Chapter to be able to go up through this mid lane. But with the Elder Dragon spawning in just 25 seconds, this is going to be the prize for Lost Chapter, and it is kind of the one way that Limitless Future has to possibly come back into this game. We know that the executes that can come out from that are so big, and we're going to see a fight.
Fight coming in here as Martial Arts is just absolutely one-shotted. Mega Inferno Bomb's going to do a lot of damage, but look at the bullet time over the top. Myth Jones already chunked down to less than half HP, but they're in the death. No, wait, they're not in the death realm. I don't know what happened there. Magnet Storm gonna whiff, but look at the pings. 3 members dead from Lost Chapter. From Limitless Future means that Lost Chapter smells blood in the water. They smell the Nexus. As the mid lane wave is onto these Nexus towers, they have a super minion and one has already gone. What can Omnific and Myth Jones do as nothing? As Shin Yuna just gonna flash forward. Pause it again because we are just not feeling the game today. But I would imagine that, you know, Lost Chapter is going to pick up the Nexus in this game.
Spicy prediction, Omnific dies in this situation, and Lost Chapter look like they're going to end the game. No, they don't even need to pick up the Elder Dragon. They got their eyes on the prize. They're looking at the Nexus, and I would only have to imagine that once this bug, thank you Riot, ends, we're going to see that Lost Chapter is going to be the winner of this first game in this series. And wow, we're just waiting a long time here.
No, I'm pretty sure this is a bug that happens when the game ends. So The game is over.
Yeah,
As
the
far
game
as
is over. I've actually also on a couple of the Tracking the Pro streams that I've been watching recently have seen this bug. as
Yeah,
well.
so we can get out of there.
I think we're done, and that was, very fun game coming out here. Lost chapter. It was a little bit close in the early to mid game, but eventually they are able to take the victory. They are able to just get a lead, and once they get this lead, they extend it, and it's all off the back of Gregorio. We had high expectations for him coming into this matchup, and he has met every single one. Lost chapter, they're still the team to beat.
Lost chapter looking strong in game number 1 as we're going to take a short break before we get into pick ban for game 2 of the semifinals between Limitless Future and Lost Chapter. Don't go anywhere because we will be right back. for Game 2, the pick ban of the semifinals between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future. Lost Chapter taking Game 1 in pretty commanding fashion, I would say. So I'm interested to see what Limitless Future has in the draft adaptations for this game.
And Lost Chapter, they came to play today. They have no mercy for Limitless Future. They're playing a game on, honestly, another level in the first one. I felt like they were just on another level from Limitless Future. Maybe the one lane that was going pretty well was in the top lane with martial arts and being able to pick up a couple of solo kills onto Kevin Chen. Also some nice hooks by Stone Life early on, but overall, I just felt like Lost Chapter was doing so much better than Limitless Future. So we'll see if they're able to continue that. And look at these bans, right, Chains. I mean, Limitless Future, they have identified that Gregorio is the problem so far. They're going to be banning out 3 champions away from the jungler for Lost Chapter. The Lee Sin's still going to be available, though, so I'm interested to see if Myth Jones might want to take that one away or if they're just going to let that one go over. But Lost Chapter, they're not fixing what isn't broken. They're picking up the MF first.
I really just don't like MF first pick, to be honest. I just don't, like... I mean, I understand that both of these teams play it, but, like, it's so... I feel like it's so easy to, like, punish.
And I think that it was just such a big part of Limitless Future's drafts in the game last week that maybe Lost Chapter is just kind of taking it away from Omnific, saying, this is what we saw that you were really strong on, we're just not going to let you have it this time. In Limitless Future, they're going to put a really big emphasis on their bottom lane, picking up Ashe and Seraphine, so definitely some really strong picks, and a lot of CC coming out from the Limitless Future bot lane, but with Braum coming up second, possibly for Lost Chapter, I do really like that pickup from Yoma, being able to, block some of the damage, some of the CC coming, especially from the Seraphine. But as I said, Lost Chapter, Lee Sin is open. They're going to take that one every single time for Gregorio. We casted again. I know that I casted a couple of weeks ago this Lost Chapter team with Gregorio going at least 15 kills deep on this Lee Sin. So he really has huge mastery of this champion. Limitless Future with the Poppy hover again. I didn't feel like the Poppy really did that much in the last draft. But with that being said, I think Poppy is probably a little bit stronger with Lee Sin, or against Lee Sin rather than the Trundle, just because Poppy able to get some value out of that steadfast presence, blocking some of the dashes and that come out from this Lee Sin pick. So running it back again, clearly this is something that they had prepared for the playoffs from Myth Jones because we hadn't seen it yet. Obviously, I don't want to speak too soon like I did last time. It could go up into the top lane for Marshall, but I would expect it to go into the jungle for a second time.
It also could be going support, and you're sending Fonzo onto the Seraphine. This is, there's still a lot of options. It's a relative flex pick there, but, like you say, it's probably going to be in the jungle. I feel like we can feel a little more confident there, but for the time being, both of these teams looking to take away the top lane pool for their counterpart here. Ornn going down, and Darius going down as well, so we'll see if these last 2 bans are... As both these teams have locked in their bottom lanes and presumably their junglers, Talia is the last pick off the table for Limitless Future, and then Alawi on the other side is going to be taken away, and then instantly Limitless Future picks up Set.
So I was just about to say, I think Limitless Future definitely should blind pick their top laner here. They are going to pick up the Set for Marshall, and we watched it last week, right, Chains? He was absolutely fantastic on this Set pick, going against Team Ambition, Heart and Soul, made great use of it. It's definitely something that's quite blind pickable. I'm sure that Kevin Chen probably has something that he'll be able to counter with, but not any necessarily hard counter picks, and it is going to be the Dr. Mundo picked up, and I was talking with some people earlier about how I think Mundo is one of the strongest picks for Kevin Chen. He's really proficient. For me, Mundo is something it's really underrated, to be honest. It's a champion that got buffed in a recent patch. Before that, it was already really strong. Doesn't really have some very strong, super strong counter matchups. And I think with that CC shield that Mundo has coming out, it's really going to help against that Set Facebreaker. Going to have to blow that shield first in order to be able to make anything happen. And with Ryze locked in for Shin Yuna, we know Shin Yuna is super strong on this Ryze pick. They've showed it to us before. for. And I like that Limitless Future gave over the counter pick to Fonzo, and Fonzo going to pick up the Diana, so a very aggressive pick from him, and I like that because he was just getting caught out again and again on this Victor. The Diana definitely gives him more agency to be able to win his lane by himself, and just take it to Shin Yuna here in the early game. So if the Diana is able to get going, I like the amount of, scaling and the gap that he might be able to create between himself and Shin Yuna, because as it was last game, he just really was getting taken advantage of time and time again, not only by Shin Yuna but also by the ganks from Gregorio.
I kind of like these compositions here. I think Lost Chapter has a very solid front to back comp where you can have Lee Sin diving backline as well, just looking for a flank kick onto one of the carriers, into your team. But you have Braum and Mundo to stand in front of your Misfortune and Rise while they're just pumping out massive AoE damage. So, I really like this Lost Chapter composition. And Limitless Future, on the other hand, has a pretty solid comp too. They have the set Diana to engage, and, on the other hand, while Lost Chapter does have these really tanky big boys in the front line, that is directly countered by Set. Set says, yeah, be more tanky, please, because I'll just slam you back into your team. And you can combo that up with the Facebreaker and then the Diana jumping in, pressing R. That is potential for a pretty massive one-shot.
Yeah, and I do think that the Poppy in the jungle is also pretty good against champions like this Mundo that just wants to run amok into your team and cause a bunch of chaos. Basically, the Keeper's Verdict from Poppy being able to knock that Mundo out of the fight is going to be really critical here. So, for me, when I see this Diana, it always makes me think, well, the big key for Lost Chapter is being able to survive through that first huge burst of damage that Diana is able to provide. If they can keep Deproprine alive on this Misfortune through that, it means that they should be able to kite back and be able to win any given team fight. But I really think that, especially on the top side of the map, Lost Chapter got every single thing that they wanted. They got the Mundo for Kevin Chen, they got the Lee Sin for Gregorio, and even the Rise for Shin Yuna. I love the way that champion is able to set up the ganks with the Rune Prison, be able to make that Sonic Wave from Lee Sin, be able to hit for free. And though I think it's a stronger matchup this time in the mid lane for Fonzo, I would definitely be afraid if I was them.
Yeah, I really like this mid jungle from Lost Chapter. I think Lee Sin Rise is really, really good. Like you said, you can secure the Sonic Wave from Lee Sin hitting, or you can confirm that hitting. You have a lot of damage, and mostly single target damage, at least in the early game, from the Rise and the Lee Sin. And all you have to do is, if your Rise, just press EW on Diana, and she'll probably die if Lee Sin is there. So I think it's a really, really fine pick. It's a safe pick as well. It's going to scale really hard along with Mundo and along with Misfortune. So I agree. I think Lost Chapter's draft, they're very, very happy with the state right now.
And Limitless Future has to find a way to slow down Gregorio. They couldn't do it last game, and he just was running absolutely rampant over this entire rift, going from lane to lane, ganking, picking up kills on the Trundle. The Lee Sin certainly does a lot of the same things in terms of the early game presence. Obviously very different champions, but I think similarly able to run right over the Poppy in the early game. I would expect Gregorio to set that tempo up early, and I think that if you're Lost Chapter, I would tell my bot lane, play safe, play back. You have the Braum, don't lose lane. Misfortune is obviously a pick that isn't that useful for the rest of the team anyways until she kind of hits that level 6 mark and is able to have that bullet time, and that will allow Gregorio to just run over this top side of the map and just be so strong. He was absolutely remarkable in game 1. I'm excited to see if he can show us more of that in game 2.
Only time will tell here, as we are going to take a short break for this spectator delay. But don't go anywhere, because we will be right back, and hopefully we'll get some bets going on in here so you guys can make some money. But make sure to let us know who you guys got in the chat for game number 2 between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future. Lost Chapter up 1-0 in the series. Limitless Future trying to even it up, and we will be onto there shortly, but we will be right back.
the days of the early suns. Through walls of lost belief, laid waste and buried deep. Salvador, we set out to fall. But there's no fear that lives inside this soul. Yeah, inside this world, there is no way back to forgiveness. I'm done. Deliver the simple and the sameness of the innocent. That lives below breathes the flames from the dying suns, and lives to wake the dying ones. The dying
We are on to the Rift for game number 1. Or sorry, game number 2. Whoa. Between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future for Lost Chapter. Kevin Chen on Mundo in the top lane, Gregorio on Lee Sin in the jungle, Shin Yuna on Rise in the mid lane, and Deprapine and Yama rounding out the bottom lane with Misfortune Braum.
And we got martial arts for Limitless Future on the set. We got Myth Jones picking up the Poppy for the second time, Fonzo on the Diana, Omnific taking up the Ashe, and Snowlife piloting the Seraphine. And Rychains, if I was Limitless Future, I would have forgotten that first game that first game happened as well, because it was very forgettable for Limitless Future. They really struggled, and as we see just the 5-man spread kind of throughout the Rift, I want to see Limitless Future change it up a little bit in this second game. I would like to see Myth Jones on this Poppy being a little bit more aggressive in the early game and trying to go for some ganks. I spoke to it in the first game, but Poppy, once she gets that heroic charge, she does have the ability to make something happen, and so I would like to see Myth Jones take advantage of that, maybe trying to get into this mid lane, trying to make something happen against Shin Yuna, and so that Fonzo can get ahead, because for me, this Diana is going to be the central part of the Limitless Future lineup.
I agree. I also think that Myth Jones... Oh, hold on. Wait, this bot lane play may be looking juicy here. Instead, just going to get some poke down. Yama going to take a lot of damage back. About 1/3 HP left on the Braum. And, yikes.
Yeah,
Work out
that's
too well.
not what you want.
Mundo car. Let's go.
And Kevin Chen, he is sporting the very best skin there is for Dr. Mundo. No, it's not an opinion, it's just a fact. So we did get to see him driving his car up there to this top lane. And I already said in the champion select, but Kevin Chen is just so strong on this Mundo pick. It's something that he's been comfortable picking up blind against a lot of different champions throughout this, this CCS. This time he did get it was a counter pick against the set. He chose to take this Mundo. And I think the thing for me about Mundo is even if he doesn't dominate or be able to pick up any solo kills in lane, he still scales in a way that it's always going to be useful to the team. And that's the key word there, is scaling. He gets stronger no matter what. There's inevitably a point. It might take a while, as there's going to be a lot of hurt coming out from Deprapine onto this bot lane of Limitless Future, but there's inevitably a point at which Mundo gets so tanky that it's really difficult to deal with. Luckily, Omnific is on this Ashe pretty good later in the game at, shredding through the tanks, but we'll just have to see. As Kevin Chen, as I said earlier, that Spell Shield does come in the clutch, but Martial Arts is using this set to great effect, is able to use the W there to be able to pick up a nice trade.
Yeah, and I think set will be okay in this matchup, at least for now. I mean, you're seeing a lot of the times that Kevin Chen is actually able to just block out from that face breaker from the set with the passive. And that's going to be annoying, but I think Martial Art will be okay in this early game. You know, Mundo is a champion that you don't want to let get going, especially early. So as long as Kevin Chen can kind of, you know, basically just not chain int, it should be okay for the time being. You can see Gregorio on this bottom side. Scuttle, top Scuttle going over to Myth Jones, and look at a gank here coming through. Alfonso diving in. Ooh, a nice flash by Shin Yuna there to get away from that Poppy E.
Yeah, and I already called it out. I said I hope Myth Jones goes into the mid lane trying to pick up something on Shin Yuna early, and they do get the flash. You know, it was really nice from Shin Yuna being able to get away from the Poppy, but with the flash expended, it kind of puts Shin Yuna in the position as Gregorio's coming mid lane.
Oh, here we go. Gregorio jumping in here. Sonic Wave is going to land. Alfonso diving in. Oh no, the spectator bug is back, but the first blood goes over to Gregorio. Fighting back and forth in this mid lane now, and we'll see if there's anything further. Myth Jones looking for it, going in. Gregorio's gonna flash to get that safeguard back to the rise. And Shin Yuna, I'm watching bot lane for some reason, watching them farm minions.
Yeah, as you know, Myth Jones, he's not in a good spot. He's on the wrong side right now, but Gregorio is so low, he is able to hit this Sonic Wave.
Going in, Myth Jones looking for the stun, finds the stun onto Shin Yuna, but the bot lane from Lost Chapter is here. Now Myth Jones running for the hills. The Sonic Wave is going to land, and Gregorio will find the second kill of the game for this Lee Sin.
And somehow, someway, Gregorio always finds a way into the game to be able to make an impact early on. He's already got 2 kills on this Lee Sin, off to a great start, and even though he spent so much time originally just sitting in the bot lane, as Fonzo and Shin Yuna gonna fight a little bit, Fonzo not quite at that level 6 mark where he's able to challenge the Rise a little bit more, but Shin Yuna just setting up his jungler with the Rune Prison. Gregorio able to come in. Very smart that he uses the W first to go in onto the ward and then save for the execute damage on his Q. It's so clear the mastery he has of this Lee Sin.
Going in is Kevin Chen in trouble. Gonna get the show is gonna get stopped for this Mundo, and he will go down. A solo kill for Martial Arts.
On Martial Arts, he has shown mastery of playing this matchup early on, as he does pick up the solo kill. We saw him picking up some early solo kills in the last matchup as well. So, you know, certainly a fierce battle in this top lane, but the question is that going to be enough to, you know, affect the rest of the game? And we haven't seen any ganks yet onto Martial Arts as we saw last time from Gregorio, so that was something that definitely kept Kevin Chen in the game, as we are seeing this set with a pretty substantial lead early on. It's going to be about an 800 gold lead here, and Deproprine going to be able to pick up that turret gold on the bottom, but we do see maybe a little bit of a fight that could break out in the river.
Gregorio trying to contest the Scuttle Crab. Sonic is going to land, but he's going in. Shin Yuna is now in the area, as Myth Jones could be in trouble here. The W should be available from Shin Yuna. There we go. Going to lock down the Poppy, and Shin Yuna gets the kill on to Myth Jones. It's doubling all of my kills, and Gregorio is gone again. Fonzo looking for some damage here. But yeah, on the scoreboard, it has my kills doubled right now.
Oh, fun.
It says
Riot
6-2.
has really been kind to us recently. Mine still says 3-1. But yeah, so not sure what's going on with that, unfortunately. I mean, Myth Jones is just being too aggressive there. You know, you got to communicate with your mid laner. I mean, Fonzo...
Oh, Fonzo going in, gonna get the Moonfall damage coming down, and we'll find the solo kill. But now Gregorio and Yama are in the area. Fonzo gonna get stunned up. No flash, is just probably dead here. As one more auto comes through, finds the killing spree for Gregorio, as Omnific now flashing forward towards Deproprine. Will go down in a second here, as we get another pause, and I might try to relog.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to take a little bit of a break just so that Chains is actually able to properly spectate the game. But I can even just continue to talk a little bit while that was happening since we're in a pause anyways. But, Fonzo, pretty critical that he is able to get that solo kill onto Shinyuna. This is the reason that they picked the Diana. They saved the fifth pick in their draft for being able to take this counter pick, and Fonzo, he is taking advantage of it so far. He has died to ganks a couple of times, but being able to pick up that 1v1 kill is extremely important. As we saw last game, the ability for Lost Chapter to be able to 1-3-1 later was so powerful for them, and it's going to be flipped this time. I think that probably the 1-3-1 advantage is going to end up going to Limitless Future, should they be able to stay fairly even in this game, because Fonzo is always going to continue to have the advantage in the side lane against Rise. Kevin Chen, he did get solo killed earlier against martial arts, but you would hope that he's able to at least, have parry against him as this game goes on, especially as the Mundo is able to pick up a little bit more. We did see a few more items. We did see the Bramble Vest already picked up from Kevin Chen, which is super important, right, against a martial arts and the set. The set definitely brings a lot of healing, especially as the game goes on. So like to see that coming up from Kevin Chen. Crucially, no healing reduction coming out from Marshall against the Mundo. So that is something that might come back to bite Marshall later in the game as we continue to go through this pause. Unfortunately, it looked like Gregorio was disconnected once again. So hopefully he can figure that out, come back into the game. Doesn't seem like the disconnects have been hurting him too much, as he does have 3 kills already in this game, sitting comfortably above this Poppy. But I don't know if I finished what I said before about that fight that was going on in the river, but Myth Jones and Fonzo, either there's not enough communication happening, or Myth Jones just isn't listening to what Fonzo's saying, because we could see that the Diana was backing off as Shinyuna and Gregorio did approach in the river, but for some reason the Poppy doesn't. Still trying to battle, trying to fight over that Scuttle Crab, and it is just not worth it. Ends up trading his life in that fight, kill going over to Shinyuna. So even though Fonzo was able to kill, it doesn't prevent Gregorio from just feeding kills onto his mid laner, onto this Rise, and because of that, we still see that the gold's sitting just about even in the mid lane. As hopefully,
I am back.
Nice.
I have joined the game. Oh, Shinyuna is gone now. So 2 members now of Lost Chapter going through some issues.
I'm going to call it a CCS playoff curse, because I feel like we had maybe just, I don't know if I ever had really very many pauses or disconnects earlier in the season. Now, the second we hit playoffs, we just got pauses left and right here. So not necessarily ideal, but it does give us a little bit more of a chance to look at this game, as, also Depperpine did go down right before we went into this pause, and I do like that aggression coming out from the Limitless Future bottom lane. They recognize that Yoma has roamed to the mid lane to be able to pick up that answering kill onto Fonzo. They don't waste a minute. They use that time to go forward. Obviously, Snowlife has a lot of CC available to him on this Seraphine, flashing forward, using the Ignite. Flash also expended from Omnific, so that does mean that I wouldn't be surprised once we come out of this pause to see Gregorio paying a visit to that bot lane shortly.
Yeah, that would make sense. No summoner. Wait. Okay, I don't really know if... I'm still a bit, since I joined in for the pause, everything's on cooldown, but I believe that Depperpine has no sums, right? Completely no sums?
Yep.
No cleanse either? Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you there. I think Gregorio, if, he's ever able to come back into the game, will definitely be paying a visit bot lane just to help out their AD carry. And, you have an Ashe Seraphine, very squishy, very immobile lane to gank there, and pair it up with a Braum, you have a lot of CC to lock one of those targets down. So it definitely looks pretty good for Gregorio to go into this bottom lane. However, the top side is going to need help as well, and I do think that just continuously going mid is going to be really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Gregorio, he's gotten this early lead for himself. There's no reason that Shin Yuna shouldn't be able to continue to get him set up again and again. And for me, Lost Chapter does seem to just have a little bit better communication going on throughout this game, especially between the mid laner and the jungler. It just seems like the synergy that's happening between Shin Yuna and Gregorio is kind of on another level. It's definitely something that's impressive to see in a plat league like this. You know, that's usually something that's a little bit missing is the team play. But on the top side of the map, there does seem to be some great systems of communication, and I'd be curious to listen to the comms on the Lost Chapter side, kind of see who the shot calling force is for that team. But as we continue to wait through this pause, talking a little bit about scaling, you know, with Fonzo being able to pick up those kills, I think that it does get a little bit concerning for Lost Chapter if the Diana is able to snowball. Now, it's just one kill. It has been answered back, but once we see a couple of items picked up from Diana, there are outside of Kevin Chen and Yoma, there are the core damage threats are pretty squishy. So again, I think it's going to be about whether or not Fonzo can pick up the kill on Depperpine early on. That's going to be a big part of these team fights. And with Omnific and Snowlife able to use their CC to set that up, they should have opportunities. It is a lot of skill shots having to land from Limitless Future, but if they're able to connect on those, I mean, they're very much still in this game. You know, as we kind of did see in the first game as well, Limitless Future, they're keeping it close for now. It's a question of whether or not they can prevent things from snowballing out of control by Lost Chapter. And so far, Gregorio, it seems like he's got the formula is down for Lost Chapter. Get Gregorio around the map. Let him, let him pick up some kills, and we'll see. I mean, if Lost Chapter is able to continue snowballing through the Lee Sin.
I mean, I guess that all relies on Gregorio actually coming back. He does have to actually, reconnect to the game for him to be making all of these plays. And according to the rule book, it is a 10-minute pause limit. So so we have 1 minute left. Once that is hit, I believe the game will resume regardless. And it will be a 4v5 until Gregorio comes back in favor of Limitless Future. So, that could be what they need to get themselves into this game. And the series, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if Gregorio goes down, that would just be rough.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that would benefit Limitless Future to be able to have an entire extra player over Lost Chapter. That would certainly change the outcome of the game. Well, potentially change the outcome of the game. I definitely would expect it to. And it's, I mean, no matter what, if you don't have one of your players, it's obviously going to be really difficult for you to win. But also notably, 3 of the 4 kills so far for Lost Chapter have been picked up by Gregorio. So with just less than 10 seconds left in this pause, I think it is going to be a 4v5 going back in. But we'll just have to see, as I've kind of, a little bit run out of things to talk about so far. So Rychain's, unfortunately, Rychain's, I know he's trying to get out for a happy hour. I don't think you're gonna make it, bud.
Nah, I was looking to get some late night happy hour action at this Mexican restaurant, a little margarita action, but it looks like not gonna be the case here, as we are in it for the long haul. The 10 minutes have gone, but it looks like they're getting an admin to try and figure this out. So, maybe they just canceled the series. Maybe they rescheduled the series. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Trying to get some admin involvement, but that really is the rule. I know. I really don't think Lost Chapter is obviously trying to take advantage of the pause, like they're already ahead, so I'm not really suspecting that. And obviously we do want to have as much competitive integrity as we can. It's not very much integrity in a 4v5, so just really unfortunate to see this happen.
Gregorio reconnected in the Discord.
Okay, so hopefully we're going to see him come back into this game in a moment. I do see the Twitch chat. Silver, my man, has said that I'm going to be going on to the finals personally instead of Lost Chapter or Limitless Future. I do accept that. So PGO and and Collective Effort, watch out. You got one single silver player coming at you in the near future. Although I am trying to climb to gold currently, so I guess I'll probably need some lessons from these players or Rye Chains. I know you're pretty far up there as well. So, anyways,
You know, I think we should make a production team to play the winners of CCS for a show
oh, I
match.
totally agree. I think that there should. I know that Flay talked about it. Our owner talked about it earlier in the season that he was potentially thinking about having a CCS players versus CCS staff. I personally would be a bit terrified to go into that game, but I would certainly do my best, and I would be excited. Maybe get carried by Rye Chains. I feel like you're probably the highest elo staff member. I'm not sure though. Can't confirm. Confirm.
I'm struggling right now. I'll keep it real.
I'm getting some offers for people to duo carry with me in the chat here, so Brankles, don't know if I can accept your Soraka or Taric jungle offer, but I will. I would accept Huff Zone, although we can't actually duo in solo duo until I get at least to gold. So,
Smurf account.
Gotta wait. Yeah, Smurf account for sure.
Definitely not smurfing, Smile.
So we are seeing here that Gregorio he's loading back into the game. So hopefully we should see an unpause and we should be able to see things resume and with everyone in it, because I understand from Limitless Future that there might be a little frustration. It is the rule that it's going to be a 10-minute pause only, but I personally would prefer to see 5v5. I think even if you're Limitless Future and you win a game off of being 5v4, I mean there's really not that much pride in that. So
yeah,
hopefully,
I mean, it's like come on, bro. But if you are the team, you say, listen, a dub is a dub, and we take dubs. So
and it is a 5-game series, so just getting them one in there wouldn't be it wouldn't be the end of the world for Lost Chapter, but obviously they would prefer to not lose this game. As
I mean, yeah, of course. The clean sweep is looking good. I mean, they want the clean sweep, of course. The potential for that is still available here.
Yeah, it sure is. Sure is. As this is a long load in. I feel like based on the length of this load in, even if Gregorio gets back in, it's not going to be ideal for him. But hey, being in the game whatsoever is certainly better than not being in the game whatsoever.
Yeah, so I did hear that. I did hear that on the grapevine at some point. I think that's a good point there. We are in. Let's go. We're back here. 4 kills to 3 in favor of Lost Chapter. The gold lead is in their favor by 200. And you can just see these players want to get back into the action. Top laners just trading immediately right away.
Nice. Now we get the delay here in spec. Let's go.
All right.
Delays are in it. But yeah, we can see Gregorio. As we come back, we can't see Gregorio. He's moving around. Looks like he must at least partially mostly be in the game, but martial arts going to go in, get a little bit of vision into the jungle of Lost Chapter, but Myth Jones starting up the Rift Herald. They did pick up the Rift Herald in the last game, so hopefully that might allow them to get a gank off on some lane, snowball a little bit of gold. But going back as well to the Dragons, Dragon Soul was picked up, that Mountain Soul, in the first game by Lost Chapter. That was really big for them. It allowed them to just blind start up this Baron, which ended up winning them the game. Not going to be scaling quite as quickly with the Dragons this time, but I would expect them to continue to target those down.
Absolutely. I mean, the dragons are so powerful in this game, especially early if you can get a lot of dragon control, and that's going to come through your bot lane most of the time. In the bot lane here, we're going to see a gank mid. Oh, Sonic Wave just going to hit the minion here, but the flash forward, they're going in for the kick. Fonzo taking really low as well, where Q should do it. Yes, Gregorio, Ignite ticking down, trying to lifesteal off the minions. No! As the last tick of Ignite gets the shutdown for Fonzo.
And finally, so a little bit of a crack showing for Lost Chapter as they do pick up the kill on Fonzo, but Fonzo able to trade it back 2v1. That is absolutely huge from this mid laner of Lost Chapter, and honestly, a little bit greedy coming in after the pause from Gregorio. He misses the original Q on Lee Sin, but decides to go in anyways, and actually uses his Dragon Rage kick, which is going to, it actually knocks Diana out of the Q from Rise. So just not the cleanest. I already spent a lot of time talking about how the communication between these two teams was, going really, really well, but now Myth Jones hiding in the bush top lane.
Gankin, Kevin Chen could be in trouble. Ends up just giving over the Dark Harvest stack, and that's about it. Root's going to land onto Yama here, but they could look for this play. Glacial Fisher's knock up onto 2, but the bullet time is a lot. Nice job using the Encore to cancel out on the Misfortune ultimate, and for the time being, everyone walks out of this bot lane alive.
And Snowlife, as the Rift Herald gets dropped top lane, Snowlife comes in the clutch, able to interrupt the bullet time. Otherwise, that would have been a big problem, as Kevin Chen, it looks like they were maybe thinking about doing a dive in the top lane, but we know Mundo, when he has that ultimate available, especially, so hard to go after. And I have to say, Riot Chains, throughout the series, I really think Snowlife is carrying the bot lane for Limitless Future. We have seen some misplays from Omnific, as Gregorio looks like he wants a gank.
Looking for it here. Going in, and Sonic Wave is going to find the Marcus. Omnific is just going to get destroyed here. Gregorio now 5-1-1 on this Lee Sin. And you can see now the gold lead is at about 400 kills in favor of Lost Chapter. Martial Arts and Kevin going at it here as a haymaker, doing a lot of damage, but a nice sidestep there to get out of that middle sweet spot by Kevin Chen. Is going to pop that ultimate. As you can see now, Myth Jones looking for the dive. Fonzo is here as well, cutting the wave, and this is going to be a 3-man dive in this top lane. Shin Yuna's on the way in as Kevin Chen has to flash away, but it doesn't matter because double flashes. Actually, no, Myth Jones only going to burn the flash to get into that play and find the damage to take down the Mundo. Now Gregorio walking in. What can the Lee Sin do? Not much as the Blast Cone utilized to safety by the mid and jungle of Limitless Future. And a 1-for-0 play in favor of them is the result.
Yeah, and I really didn't honestly like the way that Kevin Chen played that. First of all, he burns his flash when he was probably dead anyway, but also I think it might have been better for him to stay under the turret. Yes, you probably die to Fonzo and Myth Jones, but being able to get a couple of additional turret shots worth of damage onto the Diana might have allowed Shin Yuna and Gregorio to take a realm warp forward, maybe make some kind of play happen. But again, the biggest thing for me is just kind of wanting to save that flash on the Mundo, because now Marshall is able to call Myth Jones and Fonzo back up there again. There's kind of a little bit of a target on the back of this Mundo, as the Sonic Wave going to hit from a long ways away by Gregorio. But we had already spoken about the dragons and how there was such a good emphasis on the dragons in the last game by Lost Chapter. This time Limitless Future, they're going to pay a little bit more attention. We'll see if Gregorio goes for some kind of steal here.
1k HP as the dragon will get secured by Myth Jones. We'll see if there's any fight ensuing. It doesn't look like it though, as Snowlife is just shielding so much health, and the Inferno blazes on the Rift. It's an Infernal Soul for game 2, so you already know it's about to be explosive.
Yeah, Infernal Soul would be super powerful for either of these teams. Kind of always the most sought after of the Dragon Souls. Maybe, as we are going to see Myth Jones disconnecting now, and we are going to get another pause, everybody. And not the best. Not the best as we continue to go into another pause. It just gives us, we've had a lot of time for analysis in this game, but not much has happened in between those times.
You know, it is the classic. We love the pause. Game 3. See you guys at midnight. It should be wild.
Yeah.
Either way, though, you know, for the time being, Gold Lead is still in favor of Lost Chapter, about 900. They're up 1 kill. The Dragons are even. And even, you know, with all things being considered, as Limitless Future has been able to, you know, sort of pick it up, show some signs of life in the last couple minutes, Lost Chapter still is holding the reins right now.
Yeah, they sure have, and with Fonzo able to pick up that counter kill. I did touch on it a little bit, but it does still give them a little bit of this win condition of the Diana still staying in this game. Now has created about a 500 gold gap on top of Shin Yuna on this rise. So again, as we progress later into the game, will Fonzo be able to get into the backline, take down Deprapine and Shin Yuna, maybe even Gregorio as well, because he has a lot of AoE damage on his side to be able to help him out. Looking at a few of the other gold totals, things are pretty close around the rift. Going to be about a 400 gold advantage for Deprapine in that bottom lane, and about an 800 gold advantage for Martial Arts for Y in the top lane over Kevin Chen. So overall, it is pretty even. Obviously, the biggest gold lead is going to be going to Gregorio on the Lee Sin. He has about a 1,700 gold advantage over the Poppy. But honestly, if there was one player on the side of Limitless Future that could probably afford to get a little bit behind, it would be the Poppy, just because she's going to continue to have that utility. Really, the reason why you picked Poppy is for the heroic strike, for that steadfast presence to be able to slow down the dashing from the Lee Sin, and also for the Keeper's Verdict, just, as I touched on in the Champ Select, able to knock Mundo out of these team fights and not allow him to go as he pleases, which Mundo tends to do in these games.
Mundo does tend to go where he pleases, and the one thing I do want to mention about Seth is that he does not like losing, so he just doesn't. And we saw Martial Arts put that into practice in the solo kill 1v1 in the top lane. So Martial Arts, able to pick up a few solo kills in this series so far. And, I saw some people in the chat say maybe the voters were wrong when they were selecting All Team.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, right? Because Kevin Chen is a member of the winningest team. If you don't count the FF losses, arguably the strongest team in the CCS. So it's pretty easy to just say that, he's the strongest top laner as well, just because he's gonna look good if the rest of his team is doing well. But Marshall also joined Limitless Future about halfway through their season, as we get another delay here, this time of course on the spectator side. Seems to be something that happens maybe when we come back in from pauses. Thank you very much, Riot, for our experience tonight. But Martial Arts, I think beyond the solo kills, he showed us last week against TA Heart and Soul that he has huge mastery of this set champion in the later stages of the game. I recall multiple, 3-member face breakers coming out for Martial Arts. So not only has he been able to take an advantage for himself in this lane, you also have to be afraid later, is Deprapine going to have the flash blown?
Has to flash away here. He's going in. Omnific. Just going to get one shot by Gregorio and the bullet time. Now teleport's coming in. It's going to be matched by both of these top laners in Martial Arts. Does have to be careful. A nice flash kick coming in as the showstopper is going to be onto the Mundo with the spell shield. Flashing with the Haymaker. Going to find Deprapine, but Martial Arts will go down. Who do you give the kill to? It's going to be to Gregorio. Giving another one of those kills here. And that was really unfortunate. Martial Arts, who had the spell shield. Oh no.
And Gregorio's going to disconnect again, but
no pause.
No pause. I don't think there's any time left for Lost Chapter to be able to pause again, which, at this point it does seem pretty fair. The pause time for the entire game actually almost running out. I don't even know what happens, right, Chains, when that pause time runs out. I guess no one can probably pause.
Yeah, I think it's just no more pausing.
Yeah, but Mundo, with that passive spell shield that he does have, Martial Arts maybe just didn't see that one was up. Maybe he had broken it earlier as Gregorio has reconnected into the game, but just really, really unfortunate that he wasn't able to do that. But nice that Martial Arts did still pick up the one kill onto Deprapine, as this build that we've seen now multiple games in a row with that Ghostblade first, just tons of lethality from the Misfortune does hurt Omnific on this Ashe a lot.
The one thing I do, that I would change for Lost Chapter right now is Gregorio taking all of the kills. Now, Gregorio, obviously, we've seen some sort of internet connectivity issues and disconnecting and all that stuff. So why are you still taking the kills? You need to give your team a chance to win the 4v5 if you opt to disconnect. And the fact that 6,500 of your team's gold is on you is not going to help them in the 4v5.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, to be fair, if you're not counting the disconnect issues, we have seen Gregorio do this before, where he just takes so many of the kills on Lee Sin, and still is able to put him to use by amazing use of the Dragon's Rage kick, things like that. But obviously, if he is not actually connected into the game, that's a whole nother story. But the second Rift Herald was picked up by Limitless Future there, which we didn't even get a chance to touch on. They are going to be able to be the first ones to pick up the mid lane turret.
Yeah, crucially to the bot lane outer tower going down to Lost Chapter first, so able to get that first turret bonus in the pockets of Lost Chapter right before, Limitless Future could take that mid lane tower. Either way, I just want to highlight the vision in the top side of the jungle right now. Look at all of those wards from Limitless Future.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be very dark over there for Lost Chapter, and things are lit up. If you are Limitless Future, unfortunately, I'm not really sure what the utility of that is at this time, because it looks like Gregorio doing a good job of just kind of, playing around that, not whether he knows it or not going over to the top side, because he doesn't really have a reason to. Looks like his red buff is available, might end up giving that one over to Depropine at this point, but we know everyone's going to come to the bot lane because it's dragon time.
Here we go. SNLF might get caught. Asher is going to be taken up as the bullet time goes in. Martial Arts gets on to Depropine, and you have to watch in the backlines here. Gregorio going to kick away Fonzo, but he's getting run down by Omnific. It doesn't matter, though, because he's going right onto Omnific, and Depropine somehow lives. Martial Arts is the target. Now Myth Jones comes in, trying to find the kills here, but a triple kill for Kevin Chen, rather. And that is a 4-0 in favor of Lost Chapter. The Dragon spawning in 12 seconds will be theirs for sure. And they can also just send members into these waves to try to push towers and get pressure.
And Fonzo now going to go.
Fonzo looking for a Shin Yuna here, but look at that. The Rune Prison going in. Everfrost, but the Q and Ignite from Diana is too much damage, and Shin Yuna goes down.
And I was just going to say, Fonzo critically was not able to get into that fight and use his Moonfall in the actual thick of the team fight. So yes, it's nice that he's able to pick up the solo kill on Shin Yuna, but it's too late for the rest of his team. They've already lost the overall team fight. Dragon does end up going to Lost Chapter. And this is what I think is so strong about this Mundo pick. Once Misfortune is able to use the bullet time to whittle down these champions, Mundo is so hard to stop into the backline. We see him picking up the triple kill in this fight, going on to Snow Life, then turning his attention onto Omnific afterwards, and it's just going to become harder and harder over time for Kevin Chen to be able to be stopped. He picked up his first item, the Frostfire Gauntlet, now has picked up the Spectre's Cowl as well to have some magic resist. So Fonzo is not going to be able to cut through him on this Diana right away. It's going to take so much more because Martial Arts is in trouble.
Already used the Haymaker, and this means a dead set. Gregorio goes on a killing spree, now 7-1-4 on the rise, and the gold lead has increased to almost 3,000 in favor of Lost Chapter.
Yeah, and I mean, with Gregorio having that disconnect earlier, that now there's no more pause time, but hold on, I'm going to take a break because it looks like Shin Yuna's maybe going to be in trouble here. Will he be able to get the recall? 4
members running, recall. It is canceled by Fonzo, but good usage and awareness, using that Realm Orb to just get out of the play. Just see you later. And on the top side, Kevin Chen able to take out the tower. In the mid lane, Gregorio and Depropine taking mid tower. So a 2 for basically 0 play for the time being. Fonzo gonna get one, or at least try to get one on this bottom side. As now we're gonna look for the fight. Shin Yuna finding some damage with that Everfrost. But 2 towers for 1 in favor of Lost Chapter for that play.
Yeah, and that's just, a huge allocation of resources by Limitless Future to go into the bot lane, try to take down Shin Yuna. As you pointed out, right, Chains, he just uses the Realm Warp, calmly gets away, and meanwhile, 2 turrets going down by Lost Chapter. There is another one able to be answered back by Limitless Future into the bot lane, so they will be even. But you see, even with the even turrets, it is about a 4k gold lead coming out from Lost Chapter, and now the question becomes, will they be able to snowball their gold lead? Because this is about the point in the game, maybe a little bit earlier, but this is about the point in the game last time where Lost Chapter absolutely busted things open. And now that they have been able to take down all of these outer turrets, they have much more of an ability to, pick up vision into the jungle of Limitless Future. So we'll see if they're able to do that. Certainly not as fast of a Dragon Soul coming out, not only because of the slow first Dragon take, but also because of the fact that Limitless Future was able to pick them one up for themselves as well. And I'm wondering if Lost Chapter will try to look for a fight here in the near future.
Both of these mid laners are on the bottom side right now. Shin Yuna does have teleport, so they can join into the fight, while Fonzo can't. Myth Jones walking up here, gonna get engaged on. As he checks across the arrow, is gonna go wide. As Myth Jones should get taken down. Encore is gonna be down to 1, but that is a massive showstopper. 3-man face breaker there. As Martial Arts dives into the backline. Gregorio just doing so much damage onto Omnific, but the Q is gonna miss. Flashing forward with the E, trying to find the slows, and Omnific is kiting for their life, but it doesn't matter because Gregorio goes unstoppable. Now Martial Arts is the target. Finds himself with a bit of enemy lines. We're going to flash forward using that Haymaker. Nice job there by Yama, flashing away from the Haymaker, and Martial Arts is going to go down now. A 4-0 again in favor of Lost Chapter. Look at Fonzo just pushing away on the bottom side, and that means that the Baron is under siege.
Yeah, Baron going to be started up here from Lost Chapter. They don't have their AD carry here to provide the damage that they might want, but instead Deborpine is going to be using that bullet time just to clear out the wave. And Fonzo, he was able to pick up a turret in that bottom lane, but Shin Yuna with just a great use of the difference of having that teleport ability. Had he not been able to get up into that topside river to be able to join his team, it might have been a totally different story, but as it is, it's a 5v4 coming out by Lost Chapter. No, it's not because of a disconnect. It's because of a good use of summoner spells by the Lost Chapter mid laner, and they're going to grab the Baron. As you always say, Rychains, they're going to be wearing purple now.
Lost Chapter wearing purple indeed. Here is 30 seconds left until this second Infernal Dragon will spawn. Limitless trying to set up a bush. She is here. As you can see now, Realmore being used to clear out the wave. I don't even think that Lost Chapter is going to walk this way, though. Because look, they're just walking through the bottom side of the river to get in. And they're going to see, hey, no one is even on this dragon yet. As here we go. Limitless looking for the play here. Might find Gregorio out as he has to run. He's very slippery on the Lee Sin. And Chance Course Arrow is going to get tanked up by the Mundo. But nice job blocking the Encore from Braum. Fonzo diving into the backline is going to get Deborpine one-shotted as Snow Life is 1 HP. But the showstopper goes into the backlines. What can Martial Arts do? Not much, as now it is Fonzo in the 1v3. Will go down as well. A double kill for Shin Yuna and a 5-for-1 ace in favor of Limitless Future. The dragon is theirs. And I expect this game to be broken open shortly. They're still wearing purple. They still have 20 seconds on most of the death timers at least. So I'd imagine that Shin Yuna is going to be able to pick up this bot lane tower. And probably not anything else yet, but that's a big top wave. So for the time being, the gold lead has increased to 8,000 in their favor, and they're feeling good.
And most importantly, it's just going to be a huge injection of gold for Lost Chapter, picking up all 5 of those kills. And that was just a mechanics gap right there, to be honest, from Lost Chapter. Kevin Chen using his passive to tank up the arrow into Yoma, totally eating the Encore from Snow Life, using that big Braum shield, the Unbreakable. And it's just really impressive to see by Lost Chapter. And I talked about possibly trying to break the game open. I think that's going to be the point, Rychains. From here it becomes very, very difficult for Limitless Future to be able to come back as Fonzo tries to look for an engage.
Fonzo trying to make something happen, but it's into 2 and will go down. Myth Jones is walking in as well as a double kill comes through for Deborpine. Now Snow Life is going to go down, and they're just doing the Stormtrooper strategy where they go one by one into the enemy team. That is not optimal strategy there, as it looks like Lost Chapter will try to push in this mid and bottom lanes, try to crack open the base for now. Still a lot of time left on these death timers, and you can see Deborpine is pushing in this bottom lane wave, going to secure that inner tower bot lane.
Yeah, and that to me just looks like a little bit of frustration from Fonzo. He's the one who still has some gold from Limitless Future, but just diving in 1v2, he just doesn't have enough damage to finish it. And if he doesn't have enough damage in his initial burst to be able to take out at least 1 to 2 members from Lost Chapter, this is going to happen to them every single time. You know, they're just going to get run down. Fonzo eventually going to get taken out, and then multiple other members of Limitless Future to follow. And at this point, I just don't think there's ever really a time in the game where you're going to be able to have enough damage. Last game too, we saw Gregorio. The only time that they were able to take him down on the Trundle was when he literally ran into the fountain. This time, not only Gregorio is hard to kill with the Stair's Gauge completed, but of course, the Mundo. So tanky. 3 items, completed at this point for Kevin Chen, and he is just a force to be reckoned with. Still having so much damage to be able to run into that backline. Omnific's in trouble.
Omnific gonna get stunned up. Immortal Shield was popped, and it's a lot of sustain, but it doesn't really matter. Gregorio's gonna go legendary here, and now Myth Jones looking for it as Gregorio wants more onto Snow Life, just flashing back in over onto Myth Jones to add insult to injury. And now 3 members strong pushing into that mid lane as Kevin Chen and Fonzo are duking it out in the bottom side. Fonzo bringing that ignite, but the Moonfall is gonna get blocked out by the spell shield. Mundo is going where he pleases right now. Fonzo's going to go golden to try to buy some time, but it will only delay the inevitable. Kevin Chen is godlike. Looking into the mid lane here as the mid lane inhibitor is under siege right now. 3 members dead still for Limitless Future, as they might look to continue pushing. No, it looks like they're going to go back, go into this top lane and try to secure the top lane inhibitor for themselves as well.
Yeah, and they just don't want to go greedy here. There's no need for it either. Now they're able to group up in this top lane.
Gregorio is looking for the play. Omnific is really low, and Marshall is the next target. Haymaker is not going to get too much damage as Kevin Chen is in to the back lines. He's just going to do so much damage as Myth Jones taking Gregorio away for a ride, but it doesn't matter because he's still going to go down. Martial Arts the next target. Omnific 1 HP. One more auto will take him down as well as Depapine goes on a killing spree. And it is Fonzo and Snow Life versus the world. What can Fonzo do? Moonfall not yet available. Still needs a few more seconds as the Nexus towers are under siege. They're both down as it is the Nexus on the table left for Lost Chapter. And they're going to take game 2 in just as dominant fashion as the first.
Absolutely. And as we get that nice little, spectator pause there, we will see that Lost Chapter, if they're able to pick up game 2, that game took a lot longer than it should have just because of the various disconnects that we did have from both teams. But what a performance from the top side of the map by Lost Chapter in particular. We can see that at the end of the game, Gregorio and Kevin Chen, they were both sporting 700 gold bounties. They're here to win, and it's going to be hard to stop them going into game 3.
It is going to be hard to stop them indeed. Can Lost Chapter close out the 3-0 sweep against Limitless Future in the semifinals? We'll find out in a few short minutes. We're going to be right back to get into game 3 of this semifinals matchup, so don't go anywhere.
still tolerate their crimes again. Now let the hunt begin. Yeah. 7,000 souls scared and daunted, such a tale of woe. Not too long ago, this village was a golden scene of hope. Hold down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace, restore our glory to live forever. Yeah, bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer. Yeah. I am the light bringer. Now listen, fellow warriors, I ask you, should my campaign come to an end? There's way more to avenge. Oh, 50 million souls living in this realm without much hope. Not too long ago, this kingdom was a golden state of hope. Yeah! Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace, restore our glory to live forever. Yeah, bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer.
We are back for the pick ban for game number 3 between Limitless Future and Lost Chapter. Currently, Lost Chapter sitting at 2-0 in the series, trying to close out the sweep. Limitless Future trying to have some, trying to make that not the case and show some sort of sign of life. Taking one game off of this team could be what they need to flip the momentum for the entire series, but Lost Chapter has just been so dominant.
Yeah, and with Limitless Future taking away the Jarvan again for their first ban, I just don't really see that big of a point in putting more bans against Gregorio. We've seen him already have dominant performances on the Trundle, on the Lee Sin. Even if you take away those two champions now, that we'd seen them ban the Olaf before, that's something maybe he'll take. We see the Graves being taken off the table now by Limitless Future. Just for me, that doesn't really matter. Gregorio, none of these champions are particularly overpowered, and Gregorio is going to find something to be able to pop off on just no matter what. So I would rather see some of these bans maybe going up to the top lane against Kevin Chen, where we have already seen a close matchup between Kevin Chen and Marshall. So but instead, Limitless Future, they are going to opt for more bans. Maybe the Graves, a little bit of a meme ban, since Gregorio did tell them in the client chat that he was going to take Graves, so they're going to take that one away from him. But with Thresh, Jin, and Ziggs being taken away by Lost Chapter, we'll see what Lost Chapter decides to take first. And it's going to be another jungler.
Jin Zhao, the first pick for Lost Chapter, giving Gregorio an early game champion to pop off on again. I remember seeing Gregorio play this champion all the way back in week 1. The only time that I casted Lost Chapter was Gregorio playing on the Jin Zhao, and it was, if I remember correctly, domination.
Yeah, and just for me, this is just a waste of bans, to be honest, as I already said, because Jin Zhao, it's another super strong champion, really good early game jungler, and Limitless Future takes the Nidalee into it. For me, that's a really scary matchup for the Nidalee, because Nidalee it absolutely needs to hit every single one of her skill shots to be able to change into that Cougar form and make a difference. And so when Jin Zhao is able to get on top of her so she can't get that long range javelin toss, it just becomes impossible for the Nidalee to win the one-on-one duel if she hasn't already hit that from long range. And then, with Jinx pairing it up as well, Misfortune again going to go over to Lost Chapter. The Rel is a really strong champion. We saw it in game 1. It does a great job against Jinx, just diving in, especially when it has the Magnet Storm available to absolutely obliterate this Jinx and whatever they want to pair it with. And I wonder if Limitless Future is just kind of playing for comfort now, just kind of picking up champions that they enjoy playing. I hope so, at least, because so far this draft doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
So I believe this draft is reminiscent of what we saw 2 weeks ago. Obviously, aside from the Nidalee. But with the Jinx, with the Leona, Omnific on the hyper carry, I would expect to see a Darius ban come through for a Lost Chapter. And you can see, we're going to get top lane bans as the mid. We're going to get solo lane bans as the junglers and bot lanes have come through for each team. But yeah, there you go. Darius is taken off the table. Mundo by Limitless Future. And then maybe an Ornn ban going to be next. The thing is, it's like, as we've seen, it's been really hard to ban out Shin Yuna. This guy can play a lot of different champions. So I don't, obviously Limitless Future realizes this and just throwing their bans onto top lane, onto Kevin Chen, who hasn't shown as much champ diversity, sticking with the Mundos, the Mordekaisers, stuff like that. And I would imagine we're going to get another Mordekaiser here as the Tryndamere is locked in for Limitless Future.
Yeah, and Tryndamere locked in. I know this champion has some success in solo queue right now, but to me, this is honestly kind of a meme draft coming out from Limitless Future. I mean, Tryndamere certainly not a very team-oriented pick, and with that huge AD damage coming from the Tryndamere in the top lane, it looks like it could even be a Malphite from Lost Chapter, which would really be strong on this team comp to be able to pair up with the Rel and the Jin Zhao, just diving into the back line. And a week ago, we saw Omnific playing this Jinx against AD from Team Ambition Heart and Soul on the Kayn, and Omnific was just getting killed again and again. I believe he had 11 deaths in that game. And I would expect it to be similar here, going up against something like Malphite. Unless you have Flash available and you've got some really fast fingers, you're going to get taken down every single time on that Jinx. The Malphite is just going to use the Unstoppable Force into the backline. Again, I already talked about how the Rel and Jin Zhao are easily able to follow, or even just the Misfortune bullet time coming over the top. And with Limitless Future picking up their last pick here, trying to get something to counter the Rise. They chose the Diana last time. They might go with that one again. It did go well in lane, but ultimately Fonzo just wasn't able to translate that lead into the later game. And with Aatrox being hovered, I wonder if Tryndamere couldn't possibly go mid, because I know mid Tryndamere is actually pretty popular in higher ranked solo queue, especially it's got a kind of a ridiculously high win rate. I'm not sure about the matchup against the Rise in particular. I would imagine that, especially once you get into the side lane, you are just able to kind of, run down this Rise. But overall, Riot Chains, I think Limitless Future has realized that their days are numbered. They're just kind of trying to have fun in this game.
It's hard to say. Obviously there's not really much magic damage coming through from this Limitless Future roster, aside from the Nidalee. But Nidalee's a champion where if you fall behind, you're going to be so useless that your spears do 0 damage. So it's a bit interesting. There's not reliant magic damage from Limitless Future. And I think that Malphite here is a beautiful pick for Kevin Chen in the top lane. You're going against a pretty much all AD team. So, Bramble, Deadman's, just stack it up. Frozen Heart and, the slowing item. I don't remember what it's called.
Crossfire Gauntlet.
Randuin's.
Okay.
And no one's going to be able to kill this guy. And you're adding on a layer of team fighting with it, where you have Rel diving in, Malphite ulting in, and then Misfortune and Rise just doing massive AoE. It's just like what we saw in Game 2, and we saw how effective that was. And then you're going to put Gregorio on a champion that's arguably even stronger early game than the Lee Sin. This is a bit of a I am favoring Lost Chapter a lot in this draft.
Okay, and I do want to point out, I'm not sure. I know they could conceivably swap, but I'm noticing that Snow Life in the client draft is in the jungle position and Myth Jones is in support. So I almost wonder if they're doing a little bit of a role swap here. Definitely, I think that's what's going down here from Limitless Future.
Is that allowed?
I think so. Yeah, they're all on the active roster for Limitless Future, and I think that's the only issue. You don't have to be active within a certain position. You can just be, cleared as a whole. So I think that's well within the rules here for Limitless Future. So, maybe it's Myth Jones just sick of dealing with Gregorio, sick of going against this jungler. Snow Life says, I'll take my turn, picking up the Nidalee, which also would explain why he picked that up, because Myth Jones is not a Nidalee player that we've seen, at least so far, throughout this CCS season. So it looks, just going to be some fun from Limitless Future. I mean, taking it a little bit more seriously, obviously, if later in the game the Jinx can maybe get a few items, she can start to come online. But again, I just don't see a world in which Jinx is able to live more than 2 seconds in any given team fight because of the dive that comes out from this Lost Chapter squad, and I think Lost Chapter is going to have the easy W this time.
Okay, I'm looking. I'm doing some research. I found research. Snow Life has 15 games on Nidalee this season, 64% win rate.
Oh,
4.7 KDA. So,
all right.
Snow Life can play the Nidalee and has in this season. So this will be interesting. This is exciting to see. Even last season, 10 games on it. So Snow Life is comfortable on this champion, it seems. And this will be a battle. This is very interesting. We're getting to see a role swap here, and we'll see how good Myth Jones can play the Leona in the bottom lane as well.
Yeah, we'll see. I hopefully both teams have some fun, and we just have a good game here. So excited to see how it turns out.
It will be interesting as Lost Chapter tries to close out the 3-0 sweep against Limitless Future. Will they be able to do it? We'll see in a few short minutes. So we're going to take a small break and get onto the Rift for that game. We'll be right back. And we are back onto the Rift for game number 3 between Lost Chapter and Limitless Future. In a top lane for Lost Chapter, Kevin Chen on the Malphite, Gregorio on Jinzao in the jungle, Shin Yuna on the Rise in the mid lane, and Deprapine and Yama running back the Misfortune Rel in the bottom lane.
And for Limitless Future on the red side, we got Martial Arts for Y on his Aatrox. Snow Life taking up the Nidalee in the jungle for the first time this season in the jungle for Snow Life. Fonzo taking the Tryndamere mid, Omnific on the Jinx, and Myth Jones support on the Leona.
Ooh, already burning the flash off of Myth Jones with that early invade from Lost Chapter, and Leona without flash in the early game is going to be not that impactful, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, nice little invade though, just to be able to take that summoner spell away, and that does take a lot of the ability for Myth Jones to be aggressive early, and we know that Deprapine is playing this Misfortune, which is one of those immobile carries, so actually, Myth Jones should have been able to threaten with this Leona early on. Instead, not going to have that cooldown, and that will definitely mean that a lot of the early fights could go the way of Lost Chapter. But kind of right, Chains, what I'm the most interested to watch is actually this Tryndamere in the mid lane. We know that Tryndamere mid lane is a pretty high win rate in solo queue right now, and on top of that, it's got a really good matchup against the Rise, especially once Tryndamere does hit that level 6 mark. It is very difficult for Rise to be able to take him down, if not impossible. So, Fonzo, he should have a pretty good matchup here. He had the good matchup last time as well with the Diana, but we'll see if he can smash it even harder in this game.
It is going to be all about the execution. Like you talked about, this Tryndamere mid pick is it's pretty cheesy. It can win in a lot of matchups, but the question coming around this game is, does Fonzo have what it takes for a potential 1v9? Obviously, Omnific is going to scale up to be a beast if the game goes late enough. We're seeing Snow Life on the on the Nidalee. That'll be interesting. And
yeah, he's clearing the jungle so far, doing pretty okay with that.
Kevin is going to be completely fine in this lane just because he's just going to stack armor, and Marshall is not going to be able to do anything. So, a lot of the question is going to be on Fonzo. Can they win this lane hard enough to actually be able to, hard carry this game completely? And only time will tell.
Yeah, and I will say that, Kevin Chen, he is going to be challenged a little bit in this early game by Marshall on this Aatrox. We saw last week that Marshall does have a ton of mastery. I believe he had about 15 kills on the Aatrox last week. So we'll see if he is able to bully around Kevin Chen a little bit, at least in this early game. Certainly will get harder for the Aatrox as the game goes on, but if he can pick up a couple of solo kills in the first few minutes here, he might be sitting pretty.
There we go here as Yama's going to go in. Sun's going to land out to Omnific, and Myth Jones with the counter engage goes on to Deprapine. Myth Jones taking really low here as the heal is available and will be burned. Flash forward from Yama, going to get the flip over and first blood for the Lost Chapter bottom lane.
Yeah, and First Blood picks up by Lost Chapter in the bottom lane, is going to be able to punish the fact, Myth Jones does survive, or rather, Myth Jones gets taken down, punishing the fact that he doesn't have flash. There's Gregorio.
Gregorio looking for more, gonna find the knock-ups and make wind become lightning. 2 kills to 0 already in favor of Lost Chapter.
Yeah, 2 kills for Lost Chapter, and this is just something that we could have honestly pretty much expected in this game. Certainly Lost Chapter is the one with the much stronger draft, but that's going to make it even harder with the 2 members of the bot lane. Kind of the one lane that looked like in terms of the champions it would be fairly even, but maybe going to be a gank setup here early on to Fonzo.
Oh yeah, Shin Yuna's trying to bait this really hard, and I think that Fonzo knows that could be the case. So now Marshall could be in trouble here as the damage is coming through from Kevin, but look at the damage traded back by Marshall. Kevin TP's back in and is already down to about 100 HP. So a really nice play there from Marshall to even up the HP after Kevin Chen burns the heal and gets the buy off.
Yeah, and as I said, even though Kevin Chen is able to come back here and should kind of have the advantage.
Snow Life looking for it, flashing in, gonna find the pounce and find the rock. Kevin Chen goes down.
Yeah, Kevin Chen just going down early. Nice spear by Snowlife. So I guess, hey, maybe he should have been the jungle. Looks like he's already doing a little better, to be honest, than Myth Jones was early in the game. Able to pick up the early gank and farming pretty much even here with Gregorio. So CCS teams, look out. Snowlife. He already, has shown a lot of mastery on support. He's CCS all second team. Maybe he's looking to master the jungle next, so try to get him on your roster next split, I suppose.
Yeah, Snowlife roll swap, maybe? We'll see, though. Yama in this middle lane, getting a nice little roam. And for the time being, Shin Yuna is okay. Going to be down a few minions off of that wave there, but playing the early game pretty equally, and I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, it is certainly a really good sign for Limitless' future, because if they fall behind on this lineup, especially the Nidalee you already mentioned, right, Chains?
Kevin, not like this. Another gank by Snowlife in the top lane, and Snowlife 2-0 on this Nidalee.
Yeah, and just doing a really nice job of camping out this top lane. Nidalee is definitely a hard champion to play, requires quite a bit of mastery just because of its reliance on that Javelin Toss skill shot. But so far, Snowlife, the solo queue record speaks for itself, showing us that he does have a lot of ability to make things happen on this Nidalee pick. So far, being the one to keep Limitless future in the game, but Lost Chapter, they're going to be starting up the Dragon again. Doesn't look like it's going to be contested.
Yeah, Lost Chapter again with this early Dragon priority and these early Dragon takes is just something that we've seen throughout the whole series.
Yeah, and it is going to be that really early 7-minute Dragon again, so Lost Chapter definitely has the possibility of being able to stack them up pretty quickly, but Martial Arts taking another top lane trade, and we are going to see Kevin Chen just falling really far behind in CS. To be fair, even though he's trading really well onto the Aatrox so far, he finds himself very far behind. So we'll see if Marshall, once he's able to have another buy come in here, whether or not he's able to make.
No, Kevin Chen again. Snowlife has the 5-star hotel set up in this top lane. The camp is real right now. And Kevin goes down again.
And maybe things would have been different if Snowlife was on support throughout this entire series, because he is showing an ability to make things happen. And to be honest, I do really like the strategy for Snowlife of camping the top lane with Marshall. He has for me, Marshall has been the strongest player for this Limitless future team throughout the series. Definitely has kept things competitive in his game every single time, and being able to really it's accelerating Snowlife through being able to let him gank the lane, but it's also allowing this Aatrox to stay.
Shin Yuna taking really low. Gregorio's in the area now, and so is Yama for this roam into the mid lane. Gonna find the knockups, and Gregorio is gonna find the kill onto Fonzo.
And I'm a little bit confused there. Did Fonzo not use his ultimate, or was it down? I didn't see.
I don't think he used it.
Okay, so not going to be using that cooldown, definitely.
Up.
Yeah, so might just have been CC'd so that he wasn't able to use it. So, good layering of abilities there by Lost Chapter as Martial Arts continues to try to trade into this top lane.
Yama trading flashes with Omnific there, and getting that Jinx flash out is really important. As you can see, top lane trade still not going the best for Kevin. He's down 2 waves and 40 CS.
Yeah, and also crucially, go ahead.
That's what happens when you get ganked 3 times in 7 minutes. So.
And he's down 2 levels as well, so this Aatrox just sitting very pretty going ahead. But as you said earlier, Yoma trading flashes with Omnific, obviously happy to do that every single time, because now that the Jinx doesn't have flash, just a huge target on her back should Gregorio decide to come back down there, or even just for Yoma to go back in. So we'll see if they're able to take advantage of that, as the ultimate abilities have come in for the bottom lane. The bullet time from Deproprine. Deproprine has been able to play this Misfortune every single game in this series, so probably feeling pretty comfortable with it so far.
Here we go. It's now another gank into the mid lane. Fonzo is in trouble, gonna burn the Ghost and the Undying range as well, but in the bottom lane, Myth Jones, hello? Whose team are you playing for? Just walking into the bullet time and feeling it out, I guess. I don't know. Gonna go down. As Deprapine gonna secure the kill there. I don't know. That was a bit confusing.
Yeah, so for the role swap, seems like Snow Life is working in the jungle. Not sure about Myth Jones working in the bot lane, however, as mid gank looks like it's coming in, but we're not seeing it.
Yeah, just more domination for martial arts in this top lane. And that's been the story of the series. You know, martial arts has just been destroying Kevin Chen, to be quite honest with you, in this top lane. Now you can see we're going to make a play into this top lane. Flash forward, going to get the Malphite knockups coming through as Gregorio is in. Martial arts taking really low, but doing so much damage with that third Q, almost finding the kill onto Gregorio, but will get taken down as Kevin Chen is going to get credit for that one. And that's going to relieve a lot of pressure off of this Malphite.
Yeah, and I'm just
but wait a minute! Snow Life into the top lane we go. Finds the kills onto Gregorio now. Has to dodge out of that spear. Kevin with a nice sidestep will get out alive.
Yeah, and Snow Life, I don't know who put this man on jungle, or on support rather, because he seems like he's a pretty decent jungler so far in this game, but now we're not seeing it anymore. But I just wanted to as Shin Yuna and Fonzo fighting a little bit.
Yeah, Shin Yuna, I don't think Shin Yuna knows Fonzo doesn't have ultimate yet. So it has to be a bit scared of this play for the time being. There you go. Root's going to come through as Yama is trying to run in. Still a few seconds left. The Solar Flow is going to hit the stun onto 2. This could be massive here. As Myth Jones going onto Shin Yuna. Fonzo has the ultimate available in a few seconds, but the teleport comes in from martial arts. And now the teleports are coming in from all over the place. Yama going to get the knock. Backflip up and bullet time will zone off 2 members of Limitless Future. It is a 2-for-0 in favor of Lost Chapter with a beautiful bullet time from Deprapine there to zone off the rest of the members. Now Snow Life going on to Gregorio. Here's the damage is coming through. Omnific can't hit through the Crescent Guard, and Gregorio lives. Going on to Snow Life. Here's the damage. It's not enough for Snow Life to take the kills back. A shutdown goes over to Gregorio. The goal lead is 2.5K at 12 minutes, up 5. The Dragon is going to be Lost Chapters, and the curtains might be closing a bit early.
Yeah, and with that, obviously going to be the gold lead goes over to the side of Lost Chapter, and it looks like just kind of the momentum in this series does as well, as Fonzo trying to get a fight with Kevin Chen there in the mid lane, but not going to happen now that Kevin Chen has the Bramble Vest picked up, as well as that Bomby Cinder 2. So second dragon also going to go over to the side of Lost Chapter. And I was just going to comment on this Malphite skin. I don't know if I've seen this one before, but that is creepy. Malphite's got these giant claws.
It is a crazy one. Myth Jones just running in, gonna burn the cleanse out of Deprapine here. And now look at the rest of the team. Yama Hex flashes over the wall and forces out the flash from Myth Jones. But yeah, I was going to say, Myth Jones has not missed a solar flare yet. 2 for 2 so far.
Yeah, he hasn't missed a solar flare, but he has also not missed the bullet time as well. So that's been unfortunate for them. So, but definitely showing some things off on this Leona as the Rift Herald's dropped in the top lane. I would expect Shin Yuna to...
Oh, okay, played down into the bottom lane. Myth Jones is just going to probably die here. Gregorio's going to find the credit for that one as Omnific in the middle of 3 members, but does have the tower. Let's see how they can do juggling this aggro. Omnific is going to go down here as Gregorio takes up the tower first, and Deprapine takes down the AD carry. This tower is getting smacked away. One more plate left, but the plates have just fallen, so it's just going to go down, and the first tower bonus goes over to Lost Chapter, extending the goal lead to 4,000.
And there's no need to juggle the aggro because Gregorio can just take all of it up. Omnific on this Jinx, just so easy to take down into the turret. Not even going to use his flash because he knows that, even if he uses it, he's still obviously just going to go down. And now as we see the gold lead starting to balloon forward for Lost Chapter, things are pretty concerning for Limitless Future, as I kind of suspected. This draft, this role swap, they're just having some fun. So We'll see if they're able to get anything going as this game starts to go on, but I would suspect that Lost Chapter is probably going to be able to take over from here. But we are definitely getting a treat in terms of the number of kills, because we have 15 kills at 15 minutes, right, Chain? So kill a minute. I think my biggest competition so far for the rest of this game is going to be, will they be able to keep up that number?
It will be interesting to see, as Marshall could be in trouble. The next victim gonna get stunned up, going over the walls, finds the knockups here, as well as the Magnetstorm is pulling him through. Over the wall, he tries to go, but it doesn't matter because the Unstoppable Force is enough. Into the bottom lane, Snowlife diving on a Shin Yuna, trying to find the damage here as the spears will land and will find the kill. Now Gregorio trying to get revenge kills for their mid laner. Mitchell's taking really low, gonna go in and take him down, but now Gregorio's in the middle of 4. The shutdown will go over to Snowlife. You would have liked to see that kill go over to Omnific, I'll be honest with you. But nonetheless, the gold is onto Snowlife, and taking a look at the scoreboard in this game, so are all of the rest of the kills. But Yama trying to take down Snowlife there. Not going to find the stun, so bullet time goes a bit awry.
Yeah, it sure does. And, Snowlife, hyper carry, Snowlife against the world right now. It does seem like for Limitless Future, carrying the most of the gold. Hey, it worked for Lost Chapter in previous games with the Lee Sin from Gregorio picking up the vast majority of the gold as well. But we'll see if they are able to make it happen with Snowlife. I doubt it, but you never know. As we got a little bit of a lull here. All the teams just trying to farm up a little bit more, and now we have actually moved to this point in the game where Shin Yuna will be over in the side lane against the Tryndamere, so that does definitely heavily favor the Tryndamere. The turret for now in the bot lane is up, but especially once that turret goes down, Tryndamere is eventually just able to run down this rise and has been able to stay pretty much even in gold, as we are seeing lots of pings coming down into the jungle.
Yeah, they're Lost Chapter taking away, but Gregorio wants to take away some lives. Myth Jones could be in trouble, taking to about 200 HP as Gregorio tried to take the Raptors away. And now we might see a top lane play here, potentially. No, maybe not. Not sure yet. Just going to take the crab instead. Shin Yuna now getting aggressed on by Fonzo, using the Everfront to buy some space. And now we're fighting. Kevin Chen could be in trouble again. Has to flash away to safety, but the Unstoppable Force hits 2 as Snowlife has to flash away. Martial Arts trying to find the damage to take down Kevin Chen, but is it enough? Ooh. No, not yet, as the Super Mega Death Rocket is blocked out by Gregorio, but Martial Arts gets the kill, gets the resets on the World Ender. Gregorio, Wind becomes lightning onto Snowlife, dives in, but the Q3 is from Martial Arts, are too much damage, has to burn the heal. Wind becomes lightning, misses that time. And we'll try to find the kill to Martial Arts. One more auto, no! As the bot lane from Limitless Future has rotated play, but look at the other side of the map. Lost Chapter about to take their 3rd dragon of the game. The Ocean Soul Point will be theirs. And they're already, starting this dragon stacking again.
And credit where credit's due there, though. Limitless Future, they come in, they're just straight up winning this top jungle 2v2 pretty hard, with Marshall showing a lot of mastery of this Aatrox, and the amount of healing that's able to come in is pretty remarkable for this Aatrox pick. And we were able to see the rest of the team coming up, playing as a group of 5 to be able to support each other, or at least a group of 4 with Fonzo still down there in the bottom lane. And the Rift Herald is going to end up being traded over for the dragon, so they do get a lot back. And to be honest, for this game, for the draft that we've seen from Limitless Future and for the role swaps that came in, I think this game is kind of a lot closer than I would have expected. So gotta give that over to them. As I also wanted to note that we saw Shin Yuna and Fonzo trading into the bottom lane, and Shin Yuna really doing a pretty good job. We talked about how this Tryndamere should have a pretty big advantage, but the Rise still staying pretty even, and Snowlife, I'm pretty sure retains his 100% kill participation, so Snowlife carry here so far for Limitless Future.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about how will Fonzo be able to carry here. Fonzo getting aggressed on yet again, as it's going to be a 2v2 in this play on the bottom side here. Look at the damage, though, from Shin Yuna, as the Super Mega Death Rocket is going to get blocked out by the Crescent Guard, but Fonzo will find the kill, as now Shin Yuna has to run for the hills. Going to use that Realm Warp just to get out, because you can see the bottom lane for Limitless Future was running down the river.
Yeah, and Gregorio definitely having by far his worst game of the series so far here against Snowlife. Seems like Snowlife must have his number in the jungle here. Not only winning the top jungle 2v2, but also winning the mid jungle 2v2. So that is honestly a little bit concerning if you're Lost Chapter. But I think once we get kind of more into the team fight phase of this game, once Lost Chapter is able to layer a few more of their ultimate abilities on top of each other, especially when the Malphite's there, as well as Deproprine on this Misfortune, that's when there's so much unavoidable damage coming onto Limitless Future. That's when it's going to get a lot more difficult. And on top of that, Deproprine and Yoma, they're definitely so far the strongest lane in this game for Lost Chapter. They have not died yet between either of them, and they have a total of 7 kills. So looking very strong.
Look at the damage there from Shin Yuna onto that Tryndamere. Fonzo taken to under half HP, and now Myth Jones could be in trouble. Wind becomes lightning, Solar Flare, and the Flash going to buy enough space for Leona to survive for the time being, but the Rift-tailed spawn into the bottom lane will secure the bottom lane outer tower. Shin Yuna will be able to just pick it up and prevent any further push. But for the time being, Lost Chapter pressuring this mid lane. 2 minutes on their potential Ocean Dragon Soul. So that's going to be a lot of regen. How are you going to kill Jin Zhao if he has Ocean Drag or Ocean Soul? It's going to be really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll become really hard for the side of Limitless Future to have enough damage. I mean, they did actually draft a good amount of damage for Limitless Future, though, so still might be able to survive. Obviously, it is not ideal though, but with the gold not being there being not that much of a difference, with the gold, I would expect that's going to be the point where Limitless Future is really going to look for a fight, because if they're able to take a 5v5 against Lost Chapter, that's when it gets really difficult. But also it becomes closer, at least. I don't want to say it becomes really difficult. It becomes closer then for Limitless Future, but also, Kevin Chen still hasn't been there to team up with Deproprine in a team fight yet, but it looks like Lost Chapter is trying to search the jungle there looking for Snowlife, but they're not going to be able to find him.
They might just start the Baron, to be honest with you. They just see 2 people bot lane, 3 people bot lane on a ward, and yeah, they're just going to start up the Baron right now. Let's see if Limitless Future can get there in time here, as the Baron is at 9,000 health. Super Mega Death Rocket is going to find some damage, but for the time being, Kevin Chen just zoning off the rest of the team in the middle of 3, and they just walk right past him, but they are off. The 2-man Solar Flare as Myth Jones goes in to the back lines as Martial Arts trying to find the damage, but look at how much damage Kevin Chen is tanking up. Fonzo is here, though, and aggresses onto Yama, but the bullet time is massive, doing so much damage as Myth Jones is going to go down. Martial Arts, the next target likely will go down here, and it might be time to get excited, but no, because Kevin Chen says there's no excitement here. Jin Yuna getting aggressed on by Fonzo. Fonzo does still have the ultimate available and will burn it for the time being. Trying to spin at him. Has the flash as well. We'll see if he has the damage. The flash auto follows him over the wall. And Shin Yuna secures the ace for Lost Chapter.
And even though Lost Chapter... Oh, go ahead.
The dragon is up too. So that's going to be Ocean Soul.
Yeah, that's big for Lost Chapter. That's obviously a huge deal that they're able to pick up this Ocean Soul, but even though Lost Chapter does come up with the win with that fight, I definitely think it was a little close for comfort with them, with Kevin Chen going in really early, is able to take the heal off of Omnific, as Teleport's going to come in here.
Teleport comes in as Martial Arts is looking for it. Shin Yuna and Kevin Chen. Shin Yuna has to flash away. Solar Flare is almost available here, but the Realm Warp will be utilized. Interesting angle there, but just going to burn the teleport to get out as well. Will it get canceled out? No, my goodness. Martial Arts was so close to canceling that TP from Shin Yuna, but Shin Yuna able to get out with the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, and in a nice play from the Rise to be able to keep himself safe. I definitely thought that Marshall was going to be able to zero out those 2 members, but the damage had already been done. The Ocean Soul is picked up. That's going to be a huge big deal for Lost Chapter to have, as you already said, Rai Chains, that healing coming in, and 5 more minutes then, and it will be the Elder Dragon, which obviously would seal the deal for Lost Chapter. We'll see if they even have to wait that long, as they are very quick to start up the Baron. We already saw, and Omnific still doesn't have Flash, as Yoma trying to look for some kind of engage.
Looking for Jinx, but yeah, I mean, with that W not landing from the Rel, it's kind of hard to go for the Jinx. Tried to Hex Flush over the wall, but failed it. So yeah, there's really no threat right now. As you can see, both of these top laners are on the bottom side. As now Myth Jones could get caught out here. Gonna get knocked up. Solar Flare is gonna find the stun onto one. But now let's see what Omnific can do. Into the backlines. Here's the bullet time. Is just gonna rip through Limitless Future. And their bottom lane is dead again. That is a 1-13 bottom lane for Limitless Future. Not what you want to see. As the bottom lanes are the top laners are fighting in this bottom lane, as now Kevin Chen looks to be getting the better of this now. Look at all the armor that he has. We'll see if that continues.
Able to have the armor, also able to have the grievous wounds, which means that he is able to trade onto martial arts. But look at this, the Baron is going to be started up, and I feel like will be able to be finished by Lost Chapter. But Snowlife, we'll see if he can say something about it.
Let's see what Snowlife can do. 3.5k on the Baron. Snowlife does not have flash, but does have the smite available. Super Mega Death Arc goes wide. Hex Slash over the wall to try and just be a menace onto Snowlife here as he goes into the pit. The blue team, 17 HP on that Baron steal. Snowlife so close, but ends up giving their life to the Baron. Malphite ulti onto the Krugs for fun, trying to find Fonzo. I don't think you will be able to find him though, as he is just a bit too fast. As now Myth Jones gonna be in trouble here, gonna get jumped on. As Martial Arts gonna try and do damage here. It's a 2v2 support versus top, but Martial Arts is doing so much damage. Gregorio is now here, gonna find one kill as they dive under the tower. Gregorio tanking for the time being. Kevin Chen, they're juggling aggro back and forth. Gregorio going in, but Omnific is here now. Do we get excited? Is it time? Doing so much damage, kind of, but let's see. Gregorio is gonna just murder Martial Arts, and now Kevin Chen is chasing down Omnific under the tower. You're just gonna die as the mid lane inhibitor falls. There's a purple minion wave and a mid laner and a 80 carry on the Nexus towers. The slow is gonna come through as Fonzo has to burn the Undying Rage, and Bullet Time is ripping through the team. Well, let's see. Snowlight for the time being able to get out, and Fonzo lives with about 100 HP after that. Oh! Spear hits Deprapine for over half a health. But Gregorio onto this top side, gonna secure this inhibitor tower. Let's see if he can win the 2v2 here. Fonzo does not have ultimate available. Gregorio might look for it, but instead gonna flash out of the Zenith Blade as Snowlift was running to the play as well. The base has been cracked open though for Lost Chapter.
Yeah, the base cracked open, and big plays coming from Lost Chapter. Deprapine, he's got to be the MVP so far in this game for me on this Misfortune. Seems like he's just gotten better and better on this pick as the games have gone on. But it's going to be difficult now for Limitless Future. Now they've got to clear one wave of super minions. There's already another inhibitor that is going to be opened up, and it looks like Lost Chapter, they're just having a little bit of fun right now. We saw Kevin Chen using his Malphite ultimate over the wall, just kind of memeing, trying to get the kill onto Fonzo, and it's going to take a miracle at this point for Limitless Future to, come back into this game, especially with just kind of some of the item points that we see come in from Lost Chapter. Multiple items from every single champion on that side, as Fonzo looks like he's in a tough position, but trying to get Deprapine.
Fonzo trying to find Deprapine, but just too much CC from the Rel to even press ultimate. Now Gregorio could be in trouble here in the middle of 4 members. How did this happen? As a flash forward, Solar Flood is going to find the mark, but the Crescent Strike is going to deal so much and buy so much time already. Omnific is just dead. Snowlife is burning down as he will go down too, I believe. No! The heal comes through just in time as the double kill comes through for Gregorio. The rest of the team has arrived, and it is only Snowlife for the next 22 seconds. There's a mid-wave coming in here as a super minion, and 4 members of Lost Chapter are wearing golden. The Nexus towers are under siege.
And I think that's going to be the game here from Lost Chapter. Still pretty long death timers left on the members of Limitless Future, and I think we're going to have our first finalist team here in the CCS as Shin Yuna. He knows it. He's just going to use his teleport for fun, and Lost Chapter, they're going to be able to win this. Look at that bullet time onto the fountain, just doing so much damage as Lost Chapter are going to play with their food.
Going in under the fountain, but it doesn't matter because Lost Chapter secured the 3-0 sweep over Limitless Future.
And we finally get to see the victory screen in this one. It's Limitless Future is going to go down. Seemed like they knew it from that draft, but Lost Chapter still taking it to them, taking this game seriously, and for at least the second game in a row, not sure about the first one, but Gregorio is going to be doing the most damage for his team, this time on the Xin Zhao. He played 3 different champions, the Trundle, the Lee Sin, the Xin Zhao. It doesn't matter. It seems like whatever champion this man is on, he takes over the game, and whoever is going to meet Lost Chapter in the finals, if you don't come in with a plan to take down Gregorio, to slow him down, you're going to be in a tough spot.
You are absolutely going to be in a tough spot, and I believe that's going to be collective or
predictive gaming.
Predictive gaming Odin. So we could get a potential 1-2 matchup. That would be an exciting one to watch for sure here. But unfortunately, with the close of that series, that's going to be it for us tonight for the first semifinals match of the Classic Championship Series. I have been Rye Chains, joined by Elsa the Queen. Lost Chapter taking a 3-0 sweep over Limitless Future, and now just has to wait for their opponent. That game will be played on Monday at 8:45 Eastern, I believe.
Yep.
So make sure to be here for that. As you know, we gotta see who is gonna be playing Lost Chapter. This team looks so dominant today. But hope you guys have a good weekend. See you guys back here on Monday for the other semifinals match. And thank you all for watching. Have a good night, guys.